Today's episode of Slot Shot Podcast is brought to you by Prilosec OTC. What's your definition of freedom? Does it involve buffalo wings and pitchers when, where, and in whatever quantity you wish? Here at the Slot Shot Podcast, it sure does. Don't let heartburn limit your freedom. Take back your diet decisions. Take back your freedom with one simple Prilosec OTC tab a day. Don't risk it with immediate relief, responsive alternatives to heartburn. Get on the program with one-a-day Prilosec, available over the counter at your local pharmacy.
Welcome back to Slot Shot Podcast, a hockey podcast. We're in studio for another exciting week, a greasy week, as some have been referring to it. It was an eventful weekend in the National Hockey League, and we are excited to cover it here on our always weekly podcast here at Slot Shot Podcast. Boys, as we check in always with the co-hosts, Alex on my right, Ross on my left. Alex, you're fucking around with your mic or your headphones. So, Ross, how are you?
I'm fired up, boys. Happy to be here. What a week, right? Schedule's really ramping up. NHL is going to be going full bore ahead. It's that time of year. So, Christmas parties and end of year, Q4, blah, blah, blah. But the National League's going to keep pushing on. And we're going to have a lot to talk about, probably pretty much nonstop from here through right up through just about the end of January, early February.
All-Star break in 6-7 weeks. Termite preview show in 7 weeks.
That's right. I got to do
6 weeks,
my homework
whatever
on that.
it is.
Yeah. So, no, boys, fired up, and we got a lot to cover, so I'll spare you the gory details of my regular bullshit.
Yeah. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing well. My crack jersey came in. If you're watching on YouTube or something, you'll see it. Pretty excited about that. Missed the first. It's UPS, and my buzzer doesn't work for my apartment. So the first day I missed it, I was pretty upset about that one.
Did you go to the distribution center?
No, they came back the second day, but I ended up spending half the day perching out my window, waiting for the UPS truck, because if I didn't see it, I was going to get it.
It's not a very productive work day.
That is a pretty sweater, though.
It was worth it. The day
it's a lot
of
better in
looking
person.
out. So I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah, I did have to sit there peeping out on the street, and I saw one UPS truck coming down the street, not the right one. Eventful yesterday for me.
But everybody can see this beautiful Kraken Winter Classic outfit. Love what they did with the tarps. I mean, they took a brand new thing and they found a way to make it cool and retro, and it really does look like a jersey from like the 1910s. But who's on the back, Army? Our listeners can't see that.
I'll give a quick turnaround.
The big reveal.
But trying to keep my headphones in.
Yep. Just a key pillar to any Termite lineup. Brandon Tanev on the back. Just couldn't be happier about the tarp choice. I mean, Tanev is he's a bread and butter slot shot guy.
Yep.
So
That's
just
awesome. He'll
awesome.
be a first ballot Termite.
That's just awesome.
100%.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Had to be done. I mean, especially on Seattle, it's not like I'm taking a star player or Grubauer, which was the only jersey available for a while.
Hack move going star players or goalies.
No, you look at the two jerseys. Like I think Vegas is personally kind of ugly. I don't know how you
Disgusting
guys. We might have to put up a graphic on the video pod, but no, I think Seattle knocked it out of the park, or the NHL and Adidas and Fanatics, whoever had the designs on it. They knocked it out of the park for the Kraken, and it looked good. Look good in the new Winter Classic jersey. Did debut here on January 1st as the Kraken take on the Vegas Golden Knights for this year's Winter Classic. In terms of the lead up to Christmas, we will see a roster freeze in terms of transactions, in terms of trades here in the next week or so. But the National continues on. There has been a few trades. There have been some hits. There has been some fun goals, some fun. We had the number 1 and 2 draft pick face each other last week. We've had Patty Kane, finally registered his first win as a Detroit Red Wing. We're not going to dig too deep into that right this second. But in terms of what's on the docket for tonight, we've got some injuries, a little bit of player safety. Edmington, a little check back in with the red surging hot Oilers as McJesus has them rolling. What's going on in Tampa? What's going on in Pittsburgh? It's historically bad in both places. And the always reoccurring loose change, Termite of the Week, and Saturday picks. A fun one for the boys tonight. Excited to dive right into it. Let's start with the big one and more pressing for Alex. I know he's in the Kraken jersey, but he is a Red Wings fan. Unfortunately, the other night, after a tough battle and a tough loss to Ross's favorites this season, the Sens, his little his pick behind the Bruins. I'm kidding, but you've pledged allegiance to the Sens.
I'm committed to the Sens.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like they're my team. It's like my take is that they're going to be a playoff team.
Yep.
It's on not life support, but it's heading there pretty quick.
And this was a fun little Saturday pick game as well, and it got heated. This is a rivalry that we've seen intensify over the years as Detroit's been obviously in this. They're in the same division, and they're seeing each other much more this year. But unfortunately, digging for a puck in front of the net, Dylan Larkin collides with I think it was Ryan. And
it's Matthew Joseph.
But it was a two little combo that I think.
Yeah, but it's Matthew Joseph that starts this. He bumps into somebody else.
Arm. Walk us through it, because we've all seen it, Jack, but we haven't seen it like in Red Wings blogs
colors.
about it quite the same way.
Well, we're gonna hear it.
Well, so what happens? Larkin's in front of the net. There's kind of a puck in the area somewhere, not on Larkin or anything, but they're trying to clear him out. Totally fine. Matthew Joseph goes high though, and it's different. Like everyone's seen and been on probably both sides who's played hockey of the cross check in front where you just kind of shove somebody out of the way. The only difference here is Matthew Joseph goes for his head and kind of wraps one hand around and gets him in the jaw. So he gets him in the back of the head with one in the jaw. With both hands, then on the way down, Larkin falls, collides with another guy who's really just trying to go to his gut, but at this point his head has come lower. At some point in this exchange, Larkin gets knocked out cold. And it leads to this clip of Larkin just motionless on the ice, which is pretty scary. I mean, he's like splattered on the ice. Right after this, Perron turns around. He sees Larkin, the captain, just down on the ice, and he just goes for the closest guy there, who's Artem Zub, who wasn't involved in the play that knocked Larkin down, and goes for a big cross-check on his head. That leads to a big scrum. A lot ensues. Of course, Perron gets kicked out of the game. Larkin gets off, not on his own power, but he doesn't need the stretcher.
Stretcher was pulled out.
It was pulled out, and he was able to
yep.
skate off, but obviously he's just been out cold for 20 seconds.
It's about as scary as an out cold, knocked out cold.
I haven't seen an out cold moment like that, and it was also a scary one because it wasn't like a big open ice hit where they just get clocked. It was like, did something just go wrong there? You know, it was one of those weird plays where you're like, could something be wrong with his neck? He's had a pretty extensive history with neck injuries, so you're fearing the worst when you see a guy motionless on the ice. Thankfully, he's moving. The scans came back clean, but he's on the IR, and they're kind of hush about when he's coming back. And I think a lot of that's just protecting the player there. Yeah, don't want to give too much. So the severity's not fully known. He could be concussed. It could be something they're just giving him as much time as he needs to get back on, but. Remains to be seen. I think he's expected to play again this year. It's nothing.
So for our listeners, I want to just counter some of Arm's play-by-play there of how things.
You and me both, brother. You and me both.
So no. It's not really an issue. Everything you described is a fact. But just I think the way that I sort of interpreted that play and how it went down, completely right. Right, puck battle, clear him out. Joseph goes to shove him. The hand comes up and it like pressures and sort of jerks. He gets him. You say he got him in the head or the jaw or whatever. Maybe, but basically my point is, I think what happened with Joseph was that the leverage point was at like the top of his back, so it kind of jerked his head down suddenly. Right, that was the result of the contact from Joseph.
He gets him. Matthew Joseph gets him with both hands in the back of the head and the side of the head.
But my point to the listeners is that like Joseph's contact, like immediately alters the angle and positioning of Larkin's head and neck at the same time that another player's coming, causing a second point of contact.
Oh,
yes, but let me just show you this photo, and I know photos don't do it justice, but it shows where the hands like. That second hand doesn't get there accidentally.
Okay.
It just doesn't.
But he didn't knock him out cold with the punch.
It's unclear when it happened.
It all happened so quickly.
He gets hit again on the way down, but
yeah, it looks like a cross check, but it's not. He had a loose hand.
To give you at least a situation on the ice, this was a 5-on-4 power play for Detroit. The puck was in front of the net, ensues. It ends up working its way onto the half wall to the top of the circle to I think Raymond, and a little bit of physical contact happens in front of the net. Do I think Joseph was out there to hurt Larkin? Absolutely not. I think
disarm.
Here's the thing that if this was a different player, I'd look at this play differently. These two have history, and it comes to last year, or maybe the year. I think it was last year, or maybe the year before when Matthew Joseph was on Tampa, and it's Larkin's first game back from getting cross-checked in the head by Jamie Benn. So he's coming off a neck injury.
My boy.
And Matthew Joseph does one of these hits that we're going to get to where he just kind of shoves him into the board's head first. And Larkin's like, what the hell, dude? I'm coming back from a neck injury. Everyone knows it, right? And he just gets a pretty scary neck hit, a hit that is what you don't want. It's what you're taught from youth. Don't do that because it can hurt people's necks. And Larkin gets up and clocks him in the face, just socks him. He doesn't initiate the fight. He goes to knock him out, and he hits him right in the face.
Larkin get a game
Larkin
for this
got
one?
2 for that, I think.
I kind of remember that. Yeah,
Larkin got 2, and it's like a sucker punch, but it is a sucker punch.
But it's also it qualifies as sticking up for yourself in today's.
I thought
yes.
the hit deserved that, and
so back to this event, right? So you're saying with that context, you're looking at Joseph's contact on him differently.
Totally.
Oh, yeah,
100%. So to me, when you go up with 2, a cross check is this: when you go up with a hand and then you wrap with the other, which is what he did.
So let me just
view it differently.
Let me just counter that. All right, you're killing a penalty. You're collapsing to the house.
All four had actually collapsed into the house.
Yes, because it's a loose puck and the play had happened that way. It's a loose puck in front of your neck. Your back is to the goal and to the puck. You don't know where the puck is. You're clearing guys out. Mm-hmm. Maybe you see it's Larkin specifically. Maybe you don't. But you go to clear that guy out with prejudice.
Correct.
You use as much force as you can to just knock him, move him. And hockey's a fast game, even though this wasn't necessarily a fast, foot speed play. But he goes to shove him. The picture says what it says, right? An arm comes around and gets him in the kind of face and upper back. But I think the reason Larkin's out cold is that random combination of the second player coming in and something totally happening like that. And I just look at it as it's like, I think Joseph's trying to just make a hard play and prevent.
That's where I'm on it.
He's just trying to eliminate Larkin from making a play on the puck completely.
Yep.
I understand that. I actually don't really.
And
know.
It's just really
My
bad
issue
timing.
though is you guys have been in front of the net. You cross check somebody in the back. Do you ever go for the nameplate? On that play?
When it's happening really quickly.
Have you ever gotten on the nameplate on one of those?
All the time.
I don't. That's not how you clear somebody else.
I lived in the box.
And that's also a size. I mean, Larkin's not a small guy, but he's also not a huge guy.
The size shouldn't be the
But Larkin's also moving around. But Larkin's moving around, and he's crouching, and he's changing his back positioning, and he's bending his knees, and he's getting lower, and he's trying to box out with his legs and his ass.
Correct.
You're acting like I think you're being a little irrational about it.
I don't think so. I think a lot of people agree with this that aren't Red Wings fans. And my point is, I don't think he's trying to knock him out. I don't think he's trying to injure him severely. I think he's trying to ring him, though. I don't think he's just trying to clear him out.
Sure, and that's hockey.
He knows who it is.
And that's hockey.
I know, but when it happens and when you injure somebody, I think you get punishment for that.
But the injury,
you run that
5
risk.
on 4, but it's a little less of who it is and who you're targeting specifically. I mean, I think.
5 on 4 more so you know exactly who's playing the bumper.
You're just cleaning out the space. That's it.
You're denying an offensive chance. And I think if that second player's not in the neighborhood, right? If that thing just happens, maybe Larkin goes to a knee, turns around, sees who it is, and maybe they have a Tilly, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe Larkin's like, this fucking guy again, and then they go at it, and it's like, all right, that was more than moving me out of the way. That was trying to kind of fuck with me. But also, it's like, dude, I think this is your classic. We have all these camera angles now, and we get to see everything frame by frame by frame by frame. We forget about what's actually happening on the ice. What's happening on the ice? Joseph's trying to eliminate the player. That's just a fact. He's trying to eliminate the threat.
Yeah, I would urge you to show me other clips where somebody gets an open fist to the jaw.
The fist
on the clearing out of the net front.
We're not arguing on that.
I know, but so you guys are saying it's a natural hockey play. I don't see that in natural hockey very often. I just don't. And I doubt you guys can find it. When you see it in the next game, let me know. Send me a text.
All right,
send me a text when you see the free fist, one hand to the back of the head, one to the face.
I'll use my little ESPN Plus. I'll rewind. I'll play.
And show it to me.
I'll get the video.
Just show it to me.
Screen
on
record.
That play. The corners that it happens, but that's not a normal play.
I don't hear you. I hear you. I'm not going to excuse.
We need to agree to disagree. We're not going to
exactly. His hands were high. There's no doubting about that, and it's a dangerous play. I think the league looked at it. They reviewed it. They found that it's.
They took back 5 minutes off.
I don't think it's a dangerous play. I just don't.
It's just a misfortune of where his hands, I think, ended up. Yes, there's history there, so I understand where you're coming from. It again, as Ross just said, it's going to be an agree to disagree. I think the next thing we got to move on to in terms of the situation was, as you kind of mentioned in the breakdown at the original point, was David Perron.
Hold on. Before we get to Perron, I just want to say conclusively that Larkin being out cold the scary way that he was, and like the overall outcome there that was obviously just it looked really, really, really bad. We hope it's not. We'll still see.
Correct.
But I make that I draw that comparison more to like remember when Corey Perry's shin pad hit Tavares in the head?
No.
Full speed in the playoffs, knocked Tavares out cold, blood all over the ice in that playoff series. Want to say it was the COVID year?
I don't.
Yeah.
But
Right.
what's your point?
My point is it was accidental, weird, and it's almost like in the NFL when a player's head takes on a knee on like a kickoff or some kind of another play where it's just like it's kind of the worst combination of where the way that a player's head moved and the way that everything else was happening created something that just knocked him out cold. And it wasn't a hockey play or a hockey collision that really injured him. It was just it was a combination of guys moving and body parts being in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
And it's not going to be the last thing we talk about in terms of those happenings in terms of injuries, but the next transpiring events from this situation was David Perron sees his captain laid out basically like a crime scene. And loses his cool. And, I have no issue with him standing up to his teammate. And I have, again, I think you chalk it down to just kind of in the moment. You see Zubs in that environment. You see him in the area. What does he do? He takes two hands and he puts his two fists in a stick through Zubs' head. And for that punishment, he received a 6-game suspension from the National Hockey League. He will be fired. The NHL Players Association will be filing an appeal on his behalf. I personally do not see this being shortened. I'm kind of surprised. You could have set, we can talk about suspensions. We can talk about what, I saw that now. Yeah, that's tough. That's just unfortunate. I mean, his knee, he's fallen. Half his body's already passed.
Now we're talking about the Tavares Perry thing.
Sorry.
But
to reel it back in, Perron loses his cool. It goes after Zub. Zub is cross-checked in the face. Zub's actually the one who's trying to motion for, let's get some.
Zub totally caught a stray there.
Well, but Joseph did immediately signal.
Both
Brink
of them did.
Yeah,
Both
I'm not
did.
saying again. I don't think he's trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And when you see guys splat, if
Right.
Matthew Joseph was not worried at all there, I would have been
Correct.
really mad about
Yes,
it. If he
yes,
was skating over him, I would have been like, dude,
Yes.
kick this guy out. Go hack him in the fucking face.
Yeah, but that's not the kind of guy that's mostly in the NHL, right?
Correct. And, I think if you look at this whole situation, yes, we just spent, a good chunk of time on the Larkin situation itself. This Perron situation is what's drawing, I think, a bit more attention, and that's in the sense of, yes, and they're very lucky that Zub was not hurt in the instant, and I think that's where the NHL NHL Department of Safety is kind of relying on their suspensions of whether or not the player's hurt or not. This was a very dangerous play. There's really no precedent set for where.
Well, there is.
There
actually.
is,
This is where I
completely.
disagree. So I don't on the surface, if there's no past history or any precedent on this, I don't mind 6 games for that. I think that's a play. I get what Perron, you get pissed off. I get why he did it. 6 games to me is fair on the surface value. Now we've seen this exact play happen all over the place in the NHL this year. Matthews did it the other day. The cross check to the face happens pretty regularly when somebody gets pissed.
That was Matthews Darlene, right?
Yeah, it just happens a lot, and it's a 1 to 2 game suspension always. What the NHL, it just is. That's not. You can't debate that.
That's a fact, not an opinion.
Yeah, it's not an opinion. So the president does not support the case.
Yeah.
What they're saying that the difference, and another one, the Trouba slash the other day.
Well,
totally-
they said because he had a hand on it.
Hold on.
Sure,
God,
no.
God,
There's a lot of
God.
excuses for everyone.
Yeah.
What they're saying now is that it's because he took 6 strides, and of
And he
course
did.
He did. So I get it, but
Yeah.
there's so many plays where there's intent to
a
injure.
game per stride.
That's kind of what they were saying, and it's like, dude, I'm all for it if the next cross check like that, which will happen. It's been happening a lot in the league this year. If you punish it the same way, but how are you going to go with all these other plays happening like this that are so similar and give them triple the suspension that everyone else gets?
I hear you. I think
It makes it doesn't make any sense.
There's-
All
what they
right,
do.
all right, Jack, you go, then I'll go.
Yep. I think you said it. He came from one half of the ice to the other half of the ice to find Zub, and there was, yes, him standing up for his teammate, but I think, I'm not excusing the fact that Matthews probably wasn't trying to hurt Darlene, but I think there's a little more intent to injure in this case. And I know that's, he said, she said, and it's,
All right.
we get it, but I don't know. I just, it was, yep, go ahead, Ross. It was disgusting in my opinion.
Jesus Christ. All right. Buckle up, listeners. First of all, I relate to what Perron, okay? It's a weird scrum like we talked about. Nobody's really seeing anything. It was a fluky thing that happened. Nobody really knew why Larkin was out cold. Nobody knew. Perron picks his head up. He sees the guy down, and He sees white. It's just rage. And Zub's right there, and he thinks it's Zub. And whether he thinks it's Zub or he doesn't think it's Zub, Perron is a 36-year-old veteran. He's been in the NHL when it was not this patty cake league that it is today. And when Perron was coming up in the NHL, you see somebody down like that, and I've heard this from a number of real hockey players that played in real leagues with real fighting and like real stick up for your teammate, kind of laws. The term grab somebody, right? Just go get somebody, right? And so that's what Perron's trying to do. He comes in with the cross check to the temple. That's a bad look. That's a scenario where it could have caused Zub to do a Larkin there. Yeah. That obviously nobody really wants, and it looked ugly. Zub is caught off guard because I think Zub maybe had the best perspective on the ice of what happened to Larkin. Mm-hmm. And so Zub's thinking to himself, whoa, tempers down. We've got a real player injury situation. Differently than he's thinking, oh shit, we're about to throw down, right? So Zub's not really protecting himself as Perron's charging at him. If I'm Zub there, I think I probably get a little bit more into fight or flight there than Zub's kind of weird hesitation eating a cross-check in the face. But when you say it's disgusting and you look at this stuff, I just think that's a gross overreaction. 6 games, I think it's maybe 3. I think 3, I probably wouldn't have put up a fight over 3. I think I probably would have given 2. And I see this, and we're going to get to some of the other plays that are other scenarios, but I think there's a real misappropriation of justice right now with the league kind of going through its growing pains of trying to eliminate violent plays, head checks, trying to maintain body contact, trying to eliminate fighting as they're trying to, and they're struggling with the give and take of the natural flow of hockey that's been around for hundreds of years. And I look at this one as like completely throwing the book at Perron here, and I think he deserves a little bit more benefit of the doubt in this situation, even though he's got his own kind of greasy track record.
He has no history.
He goes.
Does he?
He has no suspension history.
If you watch the game tape, he's always been a dirtball.
Does a full turn, gets the momentum, and comes right into him.
But like he could touch him with a stick. Like you saying, he comes across ice. He's in the crease. He could touch Zub with the stick. So the 6 strides are him taking off.
It's 6 steps, really.
Yeah. Like he's right there.
All of this happens between the hash marks.
He's right there. He sees him.
All of this happens around. This happens from the hash mark to the top of the crease. Like he's not coming from the blue line.
And also the other thing I got to give him credit for is Larkin has had like a ton of cross checks to his head and neck area that have not been suspended badly, and the Wings have been criticized by their fans for not doing anything about it. Mm-hmm. And there's like an opinion that like they're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep targeting our best player if we're not going to stick up for him. So finally we do, and we get 6 games after we've seen so many of these dangerous cross checks to go like on Larkin. It's just like, dude, I don't think Perron maybe should have gone for the head, maybe slashed in the gut or something. Like, go break a rib, I'm totally good with that.
And Perron's never been the guy to be a completely above board honest player to drop the gloves and just go like that.
Correct.
He's always been a little bit more of a stick first, whatever. So I think the onus is on him. That's why he got suspended, et cetera. But like, I look at this, and this is a perfect scenario of why fighting's important and why fighting should be encouraged, in my opinion. And like if he throws his gloves down, Zub now knows, right? Zub is now like in the crosshairs. All right, this is going down, and then he can turtle or he can drop his gloves and meet him and whatever. But because he comes with, that's why I think he deserves a suspension. I think 6 is outrageous. I think 3. I think
there's just no precedent.
I think 3. I think 3. I think
2 agreed, 1 disagree on this one.
3 would be harsh and it would send a message, but I think it would still be fair.
I also don't mind if you suspend this head cross check everyone equally. Fine, I don't really need it in the game personally. I think you can cross check people in the back. Like there's a lot of other places to cross check somebody that hurts, and it's a good way to retaliate. The head doesn't need to be there, but just continue to like punish it that way. Yeah. If they're gonna keep on doing head cross check 5 games, fine. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, then it's fair.
Are we settled here on the Wings?
We'll see where the appeal takes us, and we'll see where it lands. 6 games is what he's got right now, and the appeal process should be probably over by the end of the week, but we're no specialists in that one. Moving on to our next little injury, and it's going to end up landing Connor. Oh, poor Winnipeg Jets. The fact is they're going to lose their leading scorer, a guy who's got 17 goals already this season. Kyle Connor goes on the shelf for 6 to 8 weeks after a tough Another one I'm going to call a hockey play from Ryan Strome as they collide in the offensive zone for Winnipeg, and unfortunately need a knee, and it lands Connor on the IR. That's let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Who wants to lead us off?
I'm happy to go. I've spent a lot of time on leg checks in my hockey education career. Is there any suspension to Rome? Any penalty to Rome?
I feel like
to Strome?
No,
I don't think so. I don't think he even got a penalty.
So I think that's bullshit. And let me just go all the way back to leg checking in general. So there's a big thing in the kind of 80s, 90s, it's near and dear to Bruins fans with Cam Neely and why his career was cut short, of guys who step up in the neutral zone and have a penchant for sticking a leg out when they screw up their angle and they're not on time, and they use the leg as an extension of their range of physical contact to got the opponent because they did their job wrong.
Ryan Strome did receive a kneeing penalty.
2 minutes or 5?
He got fighting. It was served by Leo Carlson. So let me.
He got two. Okay. But my point is that's kind of the history of leg checking and leg injuries. Okay. And that thing where you have these defensemen that did that regularly and that was part of their game, and there are certain players I'm not even going to mention because they don't deserve to have their names said on this podcast, that kind of made careers out of that thing, and is, to me, one of the dirtiest and most reprehensible plays you can ever do. It's dangerous to yourself and to the person you're hitting. This is not that. Okay, this was Strome back checking and Connor making a move and Strome being caught a little bit, and this happened really quickly. And Strome's physical reaction was to tweak his leg just a few inches out of position, creating that knee on knee where you saw Connor's knee bend the wrong way just a little, which, hyperextending the knee, right? That's got all the ACL, MCL, whatever else. So that's it's at 6 to 8 weeks. That's that could be a serious knee injury.
Correct.
It's a dangerous play, but it's not something that Strome did. It's not like Strome's play on the ice intentionally put himself there. It was really kind of a last second, I just think, athlete response moment where, that's not really dirty. It's just kind of how it is. Mm-hmm. I still think you need to punish that severely because of the danger of the play. It was
a 5-minute game misconduct.
Okay.
A 5-minute for fighting. And
yeah, but the fighting stuff all happened after.
Yeah. He got 20 minutes a game. Or he got 20 minutes of penalty minutes. So he got kicked out of the game in a 5-minute.
That'll be good for Strome's hockey DB.
But no, so Strome. I mean, you added about Strome. Strome is not a guy who has a history of dirty plays. I think this is in arm. You get my 2 cents on this quickly. Is I just think it's the fastest game on earth, and it's one of those plays where I just think that unfortunately it just happened.
And just the last thing that's so different from the Larkin situation, right? This
Correct.
wasn't a dead puck. This was like pretty much full speed.
Yep.
Guys moving at 75-80% of full speed. Mm-hmm. And it's just that much higher pace, like less margin for error, less margin for intent, one little tweak, and that's what happened.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, if you watch the replay, Kyle Connor's leg is oddly far out from his body. I'm not blaming him for it, but he's in a vulnerable position.
Correct.
And Strome catches him. And you know what I'm glad about, though? They did kick him out. He got the game misconduct. That's what should happen. I don't care if there's intent there. If you injure somebody and you make a play like that, you put your body in the wrong position, get punished. I think intent is often used in the stupidest way. It's why are we caring so much about intent? If you injure a player, that should matter. And I know a lot of people sometimes disagree with that, but it's just how I view it. If you're going to make that play, take one of the best players out of the game, you should get punished, and he did. And it does not look at all like he was trying to do it.
Totally.
No, I agree.
I don't think none of us have any ill will on Strome for this.
We finally can agree on one place.
I believe throwing Strome from the game. It serves two things, right? It's penalizing the reactionary play, regardless of intent, which I support, and it's really taking control of the game because you let that guy keep playing. We're going to get to some other situations. Right. Yeah. You let the guy keep playing, and now the game could turn into a Donnybrook.
Correct.
Very quickly. Yep. I might have, if I were, I used to say Shanahan, but now he's running, it's not Shanahan, it's Paris. But if I were running player safety, I would have looked into that and maybe given an additional game because of the priority. The priority that I think that stuff, like the specific knee on knee, you need to disincentivize as much as you can. But all told, throwing him out from the game, I think that's a fine way to.
Consequences on the ice, I think, served it appropriately. I think in terms of a suspension, I think they looked probably at Strome and said, this is not a guy who's out here to headhunt, try and end careers.
But what a tough loss for Winnipeg, huh?
Especially in the fact that, it's been a Cinderella start for this team. I'd love to see Scheifele right away drop the gloves, knew and responded. It was nice little characteristic from Scheifele there. But unfortunate to see a guy who was lighting it up and kind of changing his perspective, at least, he was changing mine a little bit. Of still absolutely just a goal scorer, but I think he's bringing a lot more to this Winnipeg team.
Talking about Kyle Connor now.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's not changing my opinion of Connor the way that he's producing because look at his game sheets.
He's done this forever.
He's just freaking consistent. He's 40 goals, 40 assists.
No,
he
but
plays 80 games. He's 40 goals, 40 assists.
We've given him the rep that he's not. I think he's
all he contributes is scoring.
Correct.
That's a fact,
I
and
think
that hasn't
been
changed.
More responsible a little bit this year, but agree to disagree on that. But we agree in terms of I think where the discipline was held on this one, and a huge loss. Can't go understated.
Now the West is just a shit show.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's like 20 teams in the mix. The Flames are still in the mix.
No. Yep. They're not wanting to go away. They're not wanting to go away.
They can't. They're trying to, and they can't.
Yeah. So unfortunate to see Kyle Connor hit the shelf for 6-8. Winnipeg loses their leading goal scorer, second in the goal scoring race at like 17, I believe. Moving on from player safety, before we get into we'll go into our next little topic before we talk into one more firing that happened this week, actually last night. Gudbranson and Cousins. Eric Gudbranson?
Eric Goodbranson.
Goodbranson. Nick Cousins. An interesting play in the Blue Jackets and Florida Panthers game. This is going to be the next debated topic. Hits from behind, and this is defenseman kind of going back for the puck, it's not an icing. It's two guys racing for the puck, and defensemen leaving themselves specifically a little bit vulnerable, and we'll talk about where people are being taught in that sense. But
taught, you might want to say if you're a coach. You might want to say taught.
Taught and teaching.
Teached. Probably not the right use of teached.
Yeah,
I don't even know if teached is a word.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Don't try that on your Scrabble boards this Christmas.
No, but a scary play. Gudbranson, ends up sprawling, falling on the ice, head first into the boards. Tough play. Ross, I know you're eager, and we've been cuffing you a little bit. Go ahead.
Well, I've got a lot on this one because
there's three different scenarios.
I know. But to me, this one's different than the other two. Here's a play, Goodbranson, okay? Veteran player, been in the league. All the conversation about protecting yourself, like he's been around long enough where he protects himself. And in this situation, Nick Cousins, who's the reason he's in the league is because he's a hard forechecker, and he's been valuable for Florida in doing that and being a hard forechecker. We know about the NHL rules that have limited the kind of tug and pull and obstruction interference and the dangerous, sort of unintentional byproduct of rule changes enabling forwards to come flying after D-men on puck retrievals. In this play, Goodbranson is doing a puck retrieval play at full speed, inside-outside edges, diagonal from the boards, about 2 feet from the boards, maybe 1.5 feet from the boards. He's making 100% a hockey play to retrieve the puck that's been happening in hockey for 100 years. He's doing nothing wrong. He is not putting himself in any position other than those that the game dictates he put himself in. Nick Cousins comes flying in like a bat out of hell and throws all of his full speed weight directly into the numbers of Goodbranson. The most dangerous spot away from the boards you possibly can. A hit that you're taught from the moment you start playing hockey, even before body contact. This is a bad play by Cousins, and he does it with completely reckless intent and behavior. And he just smashes Goodbranson's face right into it, and it's a great thing that Goodbranson's okay. All right?
Yep.
So I am really appalled, absolutely appalled, that Nick Cousins comes out of this with 0 game suspension. Nick Cousins to me,
2-minute minor.
Nick Cousins to me deserved 5 games for that. No less than 5. And the way he went in there, he's got a rep now in the league. And this moment is like, he's now like the guy that teams and other opponents, and Goodbranson's been around for a while. There are definitely a lot of guys that saw this and really didn't like it. He's going to get what's coming to him. And I can't wait. I really can't wait.
I agree. And it's literally like, as you said, you're taught from youth. It's the most dangerous play in hockey. It's just what it is.
Scumbag play.
They took away icing, like the old icing rules, because of this play.
And we've ranted about the icing and how nobody really knows what it is anymore, right? And so sorry.
But they took it away because of this play. They didn't want this play happening in a lot of ways. He was too far away from the boards. And you see Goodbranson, and some people on Twitter were giving him a little shit for it because he stays down And then he pops up to
Mr. Ross Matthews.
go fight.
I gotta get to my comments on the Instagram.
So my comment on this is like, and he spoke after the game about it. They're like, you got right back up after like appearing hurt. He's like, yeah, I was checking to see if I was hurt.
Okay.
He's like, he goes, I sat down and I was like, the way I went in, I knew what that play was, and I was like making sure I could move. And he's like, I had to take a second to process this, and then I was like, fuck that.
So all right. So we've talked about commentary on social medias and trying to stay away from it. And I don't know, I was maybe in one, and I threw a comment on here after seeing it because what happened was this horrible collision happens. Goodbranson is on the ice motionless for like a split second,
Like a second,
like a full second where he's motionless. And then he immediately gets up and beats a bag out of Cousins. Love that. And my comment on the 1929 hockey _ Instagram, I said, surprised Good was able to spring up and start chucking after lying on the ice like he died. Pathetic reality that when you take any kind of big hit nowadays, the smart play is to lie on the ice for a minute to get a call. ... Sad. Now, I made that comment not to say that Goodbranson was like that comment was really just saying, like, that's what it is now. You take a hard hit, you might as like if you get up and keep playing right away, they might not call a lot of these things. And like freezing there, like that's when you get a call. And that was my reaction. Now, the string of comments is really, really, really lovely. So I've scored 95 likes on that comment.
nice.
But some of this reply outdid me with a 106. He goes, maybe getting boarded face first hurt for a second, you cluck. Clown emoji, clown emoji, clown emoji. That one did it. But
Valid.
So then here's one that came right in that was actually exactly what Goodbranson did and had. And I sort of, when I saw this, I was thinking that too, it's called checking the engine to see if anything is hurt. When it's not, you snap. And I think that's completely it. I'm going to chuck that guy a like. Because that's what Goodbranson basically did. But my personal favorite, at me, the only hits you're taking are back claps from some random dude in an alley. That was my favorite. I'm going to chuck that a like too. That's only up to 20 likes. But joining the sewer of commentary here. But my point was not an attack on Goodbranson. It was more about the state of the NHL. Yep. But then Goodbranson gets up and tries to feed him. They both go to the box. And then, I mean, do you guys want to get in on the hit and the play before we talk about what happened later in the game?
No, I think you kind of said it right.
It was a shitty hit.
It's
like the worst hit in hockey.
No, it's surprising.
And I agree. It should have been a major game ejection and suspension. All three. It just should have been. That's what surprising. You cannot do.
And so Cousins gets 2. I think the end result was a Florida power play, which is disgusting.
Yeah, for the instigating.
Yeah, whatever. And then later on in the game, Goodbranson's playing, and he sees Cousins coming down the wall, and he just fucking jumps him. And this, I mean, in Cousins, he turtled in the moment. And then he turtled again when he had to answer for it.
You want to come after Goodbranson.
And Goodbranson just fucking went after him. And I love that from Goodbranson. I think, like, it's just like, dude, he is entitled to that, in my opinion. There once was a time where, this happened to a guy like Goodbranson, right? This didn't happen to, like, the superstar player. Mm-hmm. And it's not like goons after goons, and goons don't exist anymore,
it's a different story.
But, like, Goodbranson's going out and he's seeking justice himself, which I love. Like, vigilante justice is part of hockey at this level. And so I take absolutely no problems with how Goodbranson responded. I take huge problem with how Cousins responded. The fact that Cousins couldn't just like respond there, drop his gloves, and just have it be like try to have it be over with.
Mm-hmm. He has to take the fight. It's a joke that he doesn't take the fight.
Absolute joke.
We don't get to see it.
And the NHL rewards Nick Cousins.
We don't get to
the NHL's on the side of Nick Cousins. The NHL wants more Nick Cousins out there.
Branson got a suspension. And the fact that if you see that whole sequence play out, I understand if Goodbranson gets one because he gives him 2 shots when he's on the ice. Sure, but he didn't take the fight. You have to suspend Cousins. You just have to. I don't know how he ends up winning.
You got to chuck him from the game too.
Of course. Because that was going to happen. That's what happens when you don't chuck him from the game.
Goodbranson wouldn't have got suspended if they threw Cousins out.
It's ridiculous.
Correct. Oh, completely. It felt Goodbranson had felt he needed to police the situation himself, and after a very busy weekend, which we'll get into with the 2 other hits that we saw.
Yeah.
It was
But this one to me was the biggest miscarriage of justice I've seen in the league in a long time, and it's got me really pissed off. It really does.
We're gonna go through them, and we'll go through them right now. I think that this is the worst out of the 3 in terms of my opinion.
By far.
But going on to the next.
So just to wrap that up, right? It's the worst of the 3. It's the worst both in the intentional dangerous play that Cousins made and the miscarriage of justice that Cousins walks with 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Good Branson ends up getting thrown out and getting a game on top of it.
We don't get a response until April.
Oh, it's just fucking gutless. And like hockey has a chance to not be gutless because of its history and what it is. And now this is just how.
So that was.
This is how things are going. It really chaps my ass. I'm hot about that one.
That was Sunday night. Friday night in a matchup between the Edmonton Oilers and the Minnesota Wild. Edmington, which we're not done there yet, as they're on their heater. Evander Kane and Jonas Brodin are fighting for the puck. Similar play. Brodin, a guy who's been in the league for a long time as well, didn't really protect himself in this situation versus where I think he kind of knew Kane was there, knew the hit was coming, and Kane put him through the boards. And it's another scary one. Brodin is, I think, on the shelf with I don't know. We're going to call it upper body. I think it's probably something to do with the head, but Brodin will miss some time. Evander Kane not given a penalty, not given anything.
Well,
Ryan Hartman responds and drops the gloves to answer the bell for Minnesota. Another scary play. I'm going to list off the last one just so we keep the ball rolling.
No. Let's do this one, then get to the last one.
Okay.
They're all different. And I'm a little upset, Jack. Do you say it's a similar play? It's really not a similar play. Brodin has the puck. Brodin has the puck with his back to play, right? His face up against the boards. Brodin moves the puck, and Brodin's right up against the boards. He's within a foot of the boards, standing upright. And Evander Kane finishes his check with the player up against the boards, right? So he hits him from behind into the boards, but not from a distance into the boards. So that's not boarding. And at that level, at the NHL level, that's a legal play. When a player's flat up against the boards, you can hit him from behind. You can. You just can, right? You can't. It's obviously, it's kind of, it's the old, Nancy Reagan porn, when you see it, right? And in this one, it's Kane finishing a check. Brodin's face ends up hitting the glass. And I think that's what got him a little bit of a conky. And that's unfortunate, but that's hockey. That happens. That's how I looked at this whole play.
Yeah, so my take there's been a ton of plays similar to this happening in the league this year. It seems like an abnormal amount. My take on it is like if your head hits the boards first, that's a different argument, right? If you kind of go flat on the boards, that's not the dangerous into the boards play. This was a little bit more borderline to me. This was definitely the whole body hit it, but his neck kind of gets cranked a little bit. And Evander Kane finishes with like the forearm to the upper back. That should have been 2 minutes to me. Now, the issue is, like, if I'm Minnesota, you respond. You don't really want to chuck it with Evander Kane that much. He's he's probably the worst player in the league because he can make those plays. He's fast enough and skilled enough, and you really don't want to fight him.
And not a lot of guys can teach Evander Kane a lesson with the gloves off. At this point.
No. You really do not want to fight this guy.
You can count him on less than one hand, the number of guys.
I don't think anyone is the favorite in that fight.
Yeah.
He's got a good track record.
No, I'm definitely Team Evander.
But just go start playing that. Like, that's why you forecheck hard. I think it's a fine play. It's 2 minutes. 2 minutes because he gets his neck run a little bit.
My point on that thing with Brodin, though, it's like I don't think Brodin put himself in a particularly vulnerable spot. I think Brodin's taken that check 100 times in his career. And I think that in this time, the way it happened, little details about the way his back was arched, the way Kane finished,
Kane is huge,
and like the little specific timing, it happened to put his head against the glass and got concussed. It's a collision game that happens. That's how I look at it.
I think it's a 2 minute penalty though, just the way it was. If he's a little bit more upright, which some of these plays have been, then it's no call.
If I'm a ref, it depends on how the game's being played that day and how much that fits into how we're letting him play or not letting him play. But, I mean, I look at that play and it's like, I don't think it's egregious that you don't call Kane for 2. You could have called him for 2.
On the dirty spectrum, too, it's a little bit dirty. But that's it.
It's like a 2 out of 10 for me.
But there's a ton of little bit dirty plays that happen that are totally fine.
That we generally like on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a little bit dirty. He's trying to ring him up,
I don't think there's anything reckless about what Kane did.
No. I agree.
Unfortunate
that he got hurt.
And I love Brodin. He's one of the most underrated defensemen in the league.
There's not much he could have done, I don't think, to stop that.
It's a big loss for Minnesota too.
It is.
But maybe he'll miss 2 games. Maybe he'll miss 10. So we'll have to see the severity. Everybody's brain is different.
To our final little checking from behind comment. Eric Robinson, newly of the Buffalo Sabres after a trade with Columbus and Buffalo, sending Robinson to the Sabres. In a Saturday night matchup with the Montreal Canadiens, he takes Justin Barron into the boards. Robinson would receive a 5-minute major and a game misconduct for this hit. it would be a boarding 5-minute major game misconduct. And another scary one, another one that I think this is probably, if we had to rank them in terms of scariest to least scariest, I had this one in the middle for me.
Yeah, same.
Seeing it one more time.
He's standing still. This is a 5-minute major.
Less moving. Barron was not ready for this hit. Robinson's moving. He's coming in, and it's a tough little. Barron has his numbers all the way towards the boards, and it's not like he was turning in that instance. So I didn't love it, and I get where they're coming. Kyle Oposo did not love when he chalked this up, and at least at this point, the Kane hit had happened the night before, and he was like, "How is this a 5-minute game misconduct?" Well, Alex said it. Barron's not really moving. It's a little bit more of a dangerous hit than not, and there's really no arguing that. But I'm sure
he's a little farther off the boards. Look at how he goes into the boards. It's like his head and neck go first.
It's just it's not a safe play. It's not a play I think the NHL wants to see. And Robinson didn't receive any supplementary discipline besides the game misconduct.
Supplemental.
I would give him one. I think one game would have been fair on that.
So I've been watching this on loop on my phone since we started talking about it. Couple points here. Robinson, one of my favorite kind of fourth line grinders, one of the fastest skaters in the NHL. He just got traded this week from Columbus to Buffalo. There was interest around the league. I had heard on the various kind of insider pods that teams wanted him because I think he's got a lot to offer. He's kind of that really, really good, speedy fourth line player that just checks, right? He's not going to really score, but he flies. And when I look at this play, a couple things stand out to me. Number one, it's Robinson who moves really fast, right? So he comes into the zone entry, moving really fast. It's not charging. He has his feet planted from about the dot in.
Yep.
And there's a decent amount of time from when the puck gets to Barron between the body contact. And Barron's a right shot. He's on the left side of the net. So he's got a little bit of a blind side there playing the right shot on the left side. And that puts him at a disadvantage. He's acting with the puck as he gets to it I put this on Barron in a lot of ways because I don't think Barron is, it's not about having your head up when your back is turned, but he's not prepared for
the contact sport he's playing.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. And then the other thing that I want to point out about Robinson's contact and subsequent play there before they blew the whistle is he's coming in to make body contact and separate the man from the puck and get the puck. He is. He's not flying in like Cousins, where his back goes up against his back and he lays out full speed. What was the penalty on Robinson? What did Robinson get for this?
5-minute boarding, 5-minute or game misconduct.
5 minute thrown out of the game, no additional suspension. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I just if I look at this play, I think that's a 2-minute boarding.
Maybe I just think the distance from the boards. He cracks him. It's not like he didn't know he was going to be in that position. I don't know. I like 5 there. Because it is a dangerous play. Yeah, Barron should have moved.
No,
it's also kind of like a suicide pass.
Ross, you have a very fair point, and I think it's something I wanted to talk about a little bit because you said it. We both said it. I guess it's Barron was acting like he's playing Pee Wee Mite hockey, or
beer league, right?
He's just trying to move the puck, and it's not like he's expecting that. I mean, this is the fastest game on earth. There is no question about it, and we're in a day and age where the players are being developed to be skill fast players. They're not being taught to really receive the contact, and that's I think that's one of your biggest things that grinds your gears is that the way the game is changing, and that's all contact sports, but now we're starting to realize, all right, well, these kids aren't ready for these hits, and it's a scary thought.
Army, you got anything else on this? Because this is a good segue for me, just on a quick
Go
note.
ahead.
How much have we seen an increase in the reverse checks lately?
Oh,
reverse hits?
A lot. Well, there's obviously Darlene loves it.
Yeah.
I call it the Peter Forsberg special, who I think really kind of revolutionized the concept of the reverse hit. But when Robinson's going in there, all right, he's got to be prepared for a reverse check there.
Yeah. Who was the one that in the playoffs last year who threw the big one?
I forget. There were too many to count. It happened probably 6 times every game. But he's got it. Robinson's got to be prepared for a reverse check there. Mm-hmm. And if Robinson comes in a little bit softer or a little bit around that, he might get completely put on his back and be out of the play. So I do put the onus on Barron. I think 5 minutes, because think about a game. Now you got a 5-minute locked-in penalty. They could score 2-3 power play goals, run away with the game right there.
Oh.
And I don't think that that's a play by Robinson that should terminate his team's chances at winning the game.
I hear you. My thing is we talked that hit off the boards into the boards
Yeah.
is just super dangerous, and I think it's a risky run when you come in that hard.
And the onus is on the checker.
Maybe it's a little bit unfair, but come on, it's a defenseman going against a forward flying in. It's not that unfair.
I'm not as dug in on this as I am on the others.
And
on the
it
other
only
one.
resulted, fortunately enough, I guess, for Buffalo, it only killed them for one goal. But this was a big one where, you look at the standings. These are two teams that are fighting for spots. And Buffalo was able to lose this one in a shootout after an unbelievable performance from Clayton Primo. 46 saves in this one. But
not Clayton. But
Caden.
But if Barron wants to play a long time in this league,
he's got to get ready.
he needs to.
Gotta move. There's a lot of ways to avoid that. Move the puck, turn, reverse hit.
Guys that last in this league don't put themselves in that position. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
If you want to, this has been a theme this season, and the NHL is trying to maneuver their way through it in terms of how to punish this, and it's something that the players, and that's where I think Good Brunson was so appreciated.
You're over on Good Branson.
Good Branson was so appreciated
I hate saying his name.
For policing his own. He took it into his hands, and that's why he went after Cousins like he did. And unfortunately, he ends up being the one punished by the league. So it sends a message that I don't think this is going to be the last weekend of potential boardings, hits from behinds, and dangerous plays.
Now, I don't want to go completely off schedule here, and it's not immediately tied to our hitting from behind topic. Can we do the McAvoy play here? Or should I save that for loose change?
Let's save it for loose change. We got to keep the show. Moving.
All right. It was a natural segue, but you know what? We're going to keep pushing on.
I don't disagree with you. We'll give you that light. We'll give you the light of day.
My last point on this whole hitting topic, though, we've seen a lot of these plays this year. I think the league kind of has a choice of what they're going to do with it. We'll see. I don't know what the outcome of this is, but
what are the choices? What are their choices?
Do they start penalizing?
Start suspending people for these hits.
The
Cousins was a good scenario where I think he really could have laid down the law on Cousins and really put an end to this. They should have,
but they didn't, and I think they're going to keep happening.
It's left the door open. No arguments there. No arguments there. All right, well, we're moving on. The show is moving. We're going to talk quickly about St. Louis because the breaking news last night on the ESPN Edmonton Hawks game and the late night slates was that Craig Berube, Stanley Cup winning coach for the St. Louis Blues in 2019, is out after do you know what they are?
27 points in 28 games. Yep. They're outside the playoffs.
Lost to the Wings, which is the
tough loss to the. Yep, I think they blew a lead in that one as well.
2 leads, and
it was a tough night and a tough start for the Blues. It's a bit of a roster overhaul, as you've seen. Tarasenko is obviously elsewhere. Ryan O'Reilly, after being dealt at the deadline as well, is elsewhere. So it's a turnover. They're changing the guard in St. Louis, and it's something they've said that they really have been on record that it's not a rebuild, it's a retool, but we still feel like we're competitive, and I think that's where they're feeling that Berube was not living up to the expectations, and they're hoping that a quick change might shift the guard for this St. Louis team in a winnable Central Division for a wild card spot. So it's an interesting one, but St. Louis takes Craig Berube onto the list of hitting the golf and taking some time off in the National. This is a guy who will absolutely I could see him being rehired as soon as this offseason, dependent on how quickly he kind of wants to go back into things. But he is a guy. He's got a ring on his finger. So
yeah, and the NHLs don't hire new coaches, so he's got a good shot. There's only 5.
Any quick? I don't want to spend a ton of time because we've had.
You, D-Hill.
I think this was a worthwhile firing. I watched this Wings Blues games. I mean, they had 2 leads, couldn't hold on to them. They don't their power play is just awful. I think anytime a coaching staff has bad special teams, you got to look at coaching a little bit. And it was to the point where Kyrou wasn't even playing on the first power play. They were really trying to figure it out by not having Kyrou.
Maybe they have the second worst power play in the league as well. They're right there with.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, I know.
But they took Kyrou off it, and it's that's the level you're at, that you're taking Jordan Kyrou on a team limited with skill off of your first power play.
They had a power play at the end of the game before. Well, we'll get into the loose change, I guess, a little bit later. But this week they're on a 4-game losing streak. They lost to the Hawks. They lost to the Blue Jackets. They blew 2 leads to the Wings. It's a little bit of hit the reset button, and I think Armstrong is the.
It's Bill or Doug. There are 2 Armstrongs.
I think it's Doug.
One's the Stars, one's the Blues.
I think it's Doug Armstrong in St. Louis. His big presser today was it's just time to move on.
Yeah.
Well, what I also heard Doug Armstrong say was, he said, I could get fired this afternoon or I could get hit by a bus. And it's very sad that I don't think I would be leaving St. Louis in any better of a position than I found it. That's what he said.
Yeah, that's wild.
Which is crazy to think about a guy that built, and I loved those Blues teams that kept getting close, kept getting beat by the Hawks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that team that pissed in my Cheerios in 2019 Boston. But my thing on the Berube firing is it's a wake-up call, like obviously wake-up call team, but in the National Hockey League, the head coach, like coaches always think that they're so important. And in hockey, it's like, okay, they've got systems, system this, system that. We talked about Dean Evanson's fucking penalty kill. That was just a joke to see. But like generally speaking, right, there are what, 3, 4, 5 systems out there? Like a lot of different, like it comes down.
There's variations, but yeah.
Are the players buying in? Are they playing all the same way? Is it all working? Is it all going? And there's a shelf life on a head coach. And you know, I don't want to Bruinify this, but like when the Bruins fired Bruce Cassidy, it wasn't because the team wasn't good, his results weren't good. It's just because the time had come. Like the voice got a little old, and the dynamic between the players and the coach was no longer the best thing. So even though Cassidy goes right over to Vegas and wins the Stanley Cup, you know, I think it's just it's kind of a stupid argument to sit there and say if we hung on to Cassidy, then we would have won the cup.
Right?
No, because he's entering a different environment and he's stepping into Vegas brand new, with a bigger opportunity to make an impact than he is sitting around stale in his 6th year in Boston. So looking at Berube, right? 18-19, he took over mid-season. They win the cup. Then he's there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years after, right?
That's about it, yeah.
And so it kind of just took, you know, it happened. And it's not like the guys stopped playing for him. It's not like the players don't like Berube. It just happens. And it's kind of hard to quantify, but it's just time. The time comes.
Looking at this Blues roster, you know, I think, as I said, you know, they're it's not great, and that's where I kind of get to, you know, the aging decor. They basically have, I think, out of the 7 or 8 listed, all 6 of them are over 30 years old, so it's an aging decor, and it's just a team that hasn't really lived up to expectations in the last few years, and that's why you saw him as sellers at the deadline last year. Drew Bannister, Bannister, I think is how you say it, from the AHL will come up and be the interim for the time being as the Blues try and maneuver their next way through this coaching change. Craig Berube out in St. Louis. Any final thoughts? Perfect. Next.
Only that I said I was going to watch a little bit of Blues. Didn't get around to watching a little bit of Blues. Now Berube's gone, so
I did.
Guess we'll kick that one down the road.
Miss much. They are a point out of the playoffs.
Okay.
No, they're still, and that's where I think, you know, apparently the owner did get involved in this conversation. Similar to what I think happened in Minnesota. It was like, you know, you kind of need to pull the trigger. If we're going to reset, the reset needs to happen now, and I think that's where St. Louis is, especially in a week where Kyle Connor goes out for Winnipeg. The division title is not in grasp, but working your way into potentially the third spot in the division, if not a wild card, is still in reach for the Blues.
They're in the hunt.
Yep, exactly.
It's the whole West.
But you just look at this team. You look at what they need from a production standpoint.
Oh, it's
right?
been bad.
It's like Robert Thomas is carrying the mail for points, but after that, Buchnevich, right, power play merchant.
And they're not scoring power play goals.
Didn't they say last night they have more penalty kill goals than power play goals?
I don't know if that's them or Pittsburgh, but
something like 4 for 40 or 30,
Kevin Hayes is on a half a point a game pace. He is a +8 or +2. So it's like, I don't know. It's just they don't have enough to have as many passengers as it looks like they do. Saad 12 points in 28 games. That's not enough.
Correct.
Torrey Krug not really produced the power play. He's got to do better on that. Dude, Neighbors has 10 goals, 1 apple.
He's coming for. He tried to go for the Marchenko.
The
Marchenko will never be seen again.
Moving on from the St. Louis Blues to the Edmington Oilers. They're on a heater, 8 in a row. Disposed of the Blackhawks 4-1 last night. Had the parlay going, needed a Bedard goal. First thing that happens. Needed a Leon goal. Puts it off of Zaitsev in front of the net.
Jesus, Jack, we got to turn your volume down a bit, buddy.
And only if Connor McJesus would feel like he wanted to put the puck in the net instead of setting everyone else on the ice. The parlay goes unanswered as I needed McJesus just to score 1, and it couldn't happen. So I'm a little salty, so I apologize for blowing out the eardrums if that's what you – but this was one I was passionate about and thought was in grasp, especially as Edmonton turned it on late in this one. But the Oilers have been it's been impressive since Knobloch has taken over, and they've re-entered the chat as Alex gave me the stern correction that they're in a winning playoff percentage. Finally, they're 1 point out of the playoffs. They're a game over 500, and they're scorching hot as they continue their climb out of the cellar. And it's time to finally look at this Edmonton team and say, wow, when they're healthy, when they're rolling, and they're really rolling. And we saw it, I think, last Wednesday night, the boys went and got dinner, and we saw Edmonton beat the piss out of Carolina.
Dismantle.
And it was ugly. I mean, they scored their 2 fastest goals in organization history with, I think, 2 in the first 40 or 30 seconds. But the Oilers are rolling. They really are, and McJesus looks like McJesus. They still need to find a wing for Leon, as they've got Connor Brown paired with him with no goals. And, man, did Connor Brown look good on the penalty kill, but that's about it.
He's got 20 games, no goals, 1 assist.
Yep, it's been tough. It has, and there's no denying it. But the Edmonton Oilers are finally back in the conversation, boys. We talked about them. We thought they were dead for the Pacific Crown. It's still a conversation we might have, might not need it, as Vegas and LA and Vancouver look so dominant, but they're catching. They're surging. What do we think of the Edmonton Oilers?
That's Army's pick for the Cup, eh?
It is, and they're good. I mean, I think we were concerned about them, and rightfully so. I mean, they were playing awful hockey, and there's still holes. Don't let the 8-game win streak fool you. But at the same time, looking at their stats this year, they have 4 guys over a point a game pace, and then they also have Nugent Hopkins, who's pretty much at a point a game pace, and Evander Kane, who's hovering right there too. They just have so much firepower. They're tough. That Carolina game, Carolina didn't even get to play. I mean, it was just over because they capitalized on everything, and that is the type of skill that lets you rack up wins. They really didn't have to play that game. They put up 4 like it was nobody's business, and then they coasted for 2 periods and kept on putting them in. But when you can do that, that's what makes you good. Because who knows? That could have been an off night for the Oilers if those pucks didn't go in. Carolina could have started rolling. At the end of the day, there's teams that play well and they cannot put it in the net. Being able to put pucks in the net really helps, and they can do it in a lot of ways. Bouchard is putting up a ton of points.
He finally is starting to look better.
I still see positives out of Nurse. I thought he's had I've watched him a little bit this week, and I just see good plays, and he'll never be the contract, but
I don't feel like
he's a good player.
Darnell Nurse, you get pushed in front of the net, you look behind you, and he's like, oh yeah, sorry. I don't feel like he's got that grit.
Couldn't disagree.
You disagree?
More.
I saw it last night in the game versus the Hawks. So I just thought he was a little soft. But.
His effort and meanness level is elite.
Okay.
I think
his problem is that he works hard, not smart sometimes,
right.
And he runs around in the D zone trying to kill guys and gets out of position.
It helps when you can finally turn to a little bit of reliability in net, and it hasn't been that Stuart Skinner has been excellent, but he's rode
operational. They've gotten some operational goaltending.
And he's played 7 out of the 8 game on this winning streak. Cal Pickard?
Yeah, Pickard, yep.
Pickard picked up his first win in the National Hockey League in 10 years.
Yeah.
But, yes, it's still a little bit of a conversation of, all right, what's going to happen with Jack Campbell. But I think Stuart Skinner is you're starting to see maybe you just don't put the pressure of having 2 guys that could potentially be the one, and Skinner can roll with it. And you're starting to see some consistency in net for the Oilers, and it's helpful.
Just save 90% of the pucks, and you're going to win a lot of games with this team. That's what we're asking for, maybe slightly above average goaltending.
Yeah, operational goaltending is what they need. You got something, Arm?
Yeah, Sam Gagne's playing well. I gave him a shout-out, so I had to circle back on that one. He's been playing solid hockey. My last point on Nurse, I think he's better than Ekholm, and I think so many people would disagree because the contract gets in the way.
Wow. Yeah, I disagree violently.
Do you have any game notes on Edmonton, or do we want to save them for loose change?
My point on Edmonton is I want to give credit to their leadership group. Obviously, it starts with McDavid, but he's not banging and screaming. It's really just leading by example. Draisaitl, Hyman. I'm glad you said Hyman. So Zach Hyman, to me, he's kind of dragged the team into the fight through some of these doldrums. His game has been incredible. There were a lot of questions when he signed that big ticket out in Edmonton, and it now looks like a great steal. The way he plays, he is awesome, and I don't think he gets nearly enough credit. And just the fact that they went through what they went through, terrible goaltending, literally finding ways to lose games, dominating kind of time, possession time shots, how they did early, coming up loss, and just stacking those. That is really, really tough. And all of the outside pressure, Canadian market, obviously the McDavid and Draisaitl contract situation, thinking about roster construction, all these big picture things. The fact that they were able to just stick it out, work it out, basically play through it, allow their goalies to just find a way to stop a couple pucks. No, it's great news for the National Hockey League that Edmonton has crawled out of the hole they dug for themselves, but that's really all they've done, right? They've just dug themselves right back into the mix. So we all consider them a top team in the league. So now they've got 2/3 of the season to prove it, and I'd
think
be
they will.
shocked if they don't. Yeah,
Well, now it's like they're not a lock for the playoffs, but they're pretty close to it.
Oh, Vegas, the
They're
Las Vegas.
They're 9 points behind L.A. for the third seed of this division. So
Yeah.
the division I think is out of the question.
We talked about the division, and I think that's going to be a tough one. It's not impossible, but when I say Vegas, I mean the odds makers, not the Knights. Like the odds makers, it's bad odds betting against them making the playoffs, right?
No, they're going to make the playoffs, and they're a team you don't really want to play. Some people would say they're a team you want to play, but like it's scary.
But especially the casual fans. Casual fans have rallied behind this concept that playoff hockey is a different sport than the other things, and so we get a lot of casuals that tune in for the NHL playoffs, and I think that's terrific and awesome. It's just great news for the NHL that we aren't going to miss a year of Edmington, Leo, and Connor.
Oh, you hope not. And I think this Edmonton team is going to be searching at the deadline for someone that they could pair next to Draisaitl, and I think then you could really start looking at this team as a little bit scarier.
I don't know.
No, it's Connor Brown and Vander Kane.
They probably need a forward and a defenseman and a goalie.
Yeah, but like so many teams need players. There's like three teams that don't.
Yeah, but the fact that you're finally exiting potentially, I'm not saying they're out of the conversation where they may not acquire a goalie, but when you can start moving on to potentially looking at the depth of the roster itself besides the goalie position, you're looking at better things and things are looking more promising up in Edmington.
Apparently there is I did read a report that they have a plan to bring Jack Campbell back into the fold.
Oh, then he struggled. Then he had a bad game back in Bakersfield.
I don't blame him for the struggles in the AHL. That's got to be a horrible situation to be a goalie in. Like that's just awful. Dude. You're like you're a high paid goalie.
Goalies are freaking head cases, man. Mm-hmm. They're kickers. They're kickers.
Moving on from the surging Oilers to a little bit of trouble down in Tampa, a little bit of trouble up in Pittsburgh. It's been a surprising start for both of these teams. Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the most consistent organizations, as we've talked about a lot on this podcast. It's been eye-opening. You're talking about potentially your captain, Steven Stamkos, leaving at maybe the deadline if this team's not in the hunt. But it's not seeming to be positive in terms of a contract extension to keep Stamkos in Florida. I think if you're looking at the taxes of the situation, he's in a perfect situation where he doesn't have to pay taxes. So if he can stay there, I think money-wise it makes sense. But if he still has that drive, which he still has the legs and still has some mileage left on that body, Steven Stamkos could be out of the door in Tampa, and so could John Cooper. Well, I think not yet, but. No. What do we got on the Tampa Bay Lightning? It's been a struggle.
So we talked about him at the deadline last year with the Tanner Jeannot edition of like going for the full grit mode, and we kind of like this. But one of the downsides we thought is like you're paying a lot for grinders, guys that aren't going to contribute too much scoring.
In that case, it was paying a lot of assets, not paying a lot of salary.
Yeah, exactly. But they invested in these grinding guys, and it's worked out in a lot of ways. Obviously, like Hagel turning out how he has, but it seems like they're chasing the second coming of like Kaloran and Palat, really.
Blake Coleman.
They're chasing those
guys that are missing.
But then you look at the lineup, and you're like, this lineup to score is reliant on like 3 to 4 guys really to put up a huge amount of points. And when they've been playing well this year, it's been Kucherov and Point, and some Hedman mixed in there and some Hagel. Just putting up a ton. And, of course, Stamkos. The issue is their defensive core is pretty bad outside of Sergachev and Hedman. It's just like there's not much.
Sergachev kind of goes out to lunch every once in a while, too.
Yeah,
Who does?
Sergachev.
No, Sergachev's an elite defenseman in the NHL.
He's good. I think he's an elite second liner.
He's his moments. I'm not debating that he's not a good player. I just think he has his moments where he checks out a little bit.
I think he's an elite number 2 defenseman in the NHL.
It's fine.
Well, I think he's a number 2, elite 3. Anyways, they give up a shit ton of goals. And part of this is they give up a ton of penalties. They take a ton of penalties. And this is the secondary downside of having guys like Tanner Jeannot, having Austin Watts in your lineup, having all these guys. A ton of penalty minutes come from these guys. That's just how they play. They play a physical brand. They're willing to hook. They're willing to take those boarding penalties, whatever it may be. If you can't make up for the penalty minutes in killing power plays or in penalty kills, it's not going to work out that well. I'm concerned about this team. I don't know where they get better.
Yeah.
You could argue Vasilevsky plays better, but he's playing okay, I just don't think the defense is good. And you watch the games, they don't roll like they used to.
Yep.
When they get the power plays and they score them, they're going to win. and they can do that in any
Oh,
game.
and that's you look at it. I mean, on the power play stats, they have the third best percentage in terms of penalty minutes. They're the fourth best or fourth most in the league. Anaheim, surprisingly, clear favorites of 366 to the 332 for Tampa. Goal differential. You said it. I mean, they're in a negative 10 goal differential. I don't think you could have ever seen that from this Tampa Bay team in the last 5 years. And they look like they're beatable. And you saw that last year with Toronto. And yes, you thought it was a little bit of they're banged up, but maybe the mileage has packed up on this team, and they're starting to feel it.
The mileage thing, it's not totally gone. I think it was more of a story last year. To me, it's this decor, man. They're trotting out Calvin DeHaan every night to play defense. They've found a way to navigate salary cap, obviously with their success the last handful of years. After Sergachev and Hedman, it's real thin. And Chernak. And so what they basically are able to do, right, is like I think they're what they basically are able to do is that it's a Chernak, Sergachev, and then it's anybody with Hedman, and Hedman can just cover up for a shitty defenseman. But then that third pairing sucks, and then you get to a playoff series, and now you're trying to figure out, all right, are we going to lock something down? Are we going to expose Sergachev with a lesser D man? Are we going to load up Chernak and Hedman? Are we going to and it's just like Ryan McDonough, losing him in the offseason, and like all of the salary cap casualties, it's just a tough spot. They're just like their team. I still think that their team plays like they're still a tough playoff matchup, especially with Vasilevsky in net, the deadliness of the power play, and Nikita Kucherov, who's leading the Hart Trophy by a mile
easily right now.
It's like they've got a lot of playoff players, but the thing about regular season is guys like Nick Paul, 12 points in 30 games. That's about what Nick Paul is.
He looked great. He looked great out of the gates.
Totally. I mean, he was scoring half his shots.
And Tanner Jeannot, same kind of production. That's kind of what Tanner Jeannot is.
My issue is they invest in all these guys. They have one line that can possess a puck. That's just what it is. They don't have anyone with skill that can play with Stamkos, unless they want to break up that top line, which they don't want to do.
They might.
Their second line right now is Nick Paul, Anthony Cirelli, and Michael Esamont. That's bad. That's not good.
No, yeah, you're right.
That's an okay third line.
It feels like it's a one injury to either those top three D or that first line, and this team could really be in the cellar. Or not in the cellar.
I think they might be without an injury. I think Stamkos might be traded.
So what did I say at the start of the year when we got into our Jack Adams? I picked John Cooper.
You did.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I think that nomination is still alive. Okay.
If this team pulls it back and shows what Tampa's done for
But my point on John Cooper, it goes back to my point on the Berube firing. It's like we hype up these coaches and we give them all this credit, but when the team starts to play poorly, how many coaches can really pull the right strings and change things? Everybody gave Cooper the credit when the team was buzzing as if he's this guru, and now it's his chance to prove it. And I bet that he would, but when you look at the role of coaching in the NHL, there's an argument to be had, and we'll see how it plays out, that maybe the coach isn't so important, and maybe having the 5 Hall of Famers at the top of your lineup is really what keeps things going. So I think they're going to need some heroics from Vasilevsky.
You got to remember, first 2 months the guy was out for the year.
For sure, he's got to find his sea legs, and I think I'd be really surprised if he didn't. But. No, I mean, it's just depth had been their calling card, and it's looking pretty shallow.
I think preseason they survived in my head based on their aura and what they've done in the past couple of years. But now I look at the roster, and I've watched them play a couple times. I am not afraid of them anymore. They don't scare me.
Holy cow. All right, so plus minus is not the tell-all be-all. You ready for the plus minus on this team?
Let's hear it.
Because they're slaying on the power play. Kucherov, 47 points in 29 games. Dominating the Hart Trophy race, -2. Braden Point, 32 and 30, -10. Victor Hedman, -5. Hagel, my absolute boy, is a 0. He's an even.
It's a Sergey.
Stamkos, 26 points, 27 games, -15.
I don't blame him for that. Look at who he plays with.
Sergachev, 18 points in 30 games, fine production, -15. Nick Paul,
goes out for lunch,
-16. The power play is what's keeping them alive right now.
Yep. And also, there's good defensive players on this team. Being a good defensive player doesn't mean that can mean if you can't get the puck in the O-zone, you're defending the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are. Like people forget possessing the puck and moving it up ice also helps
It's
with
the
like
Quinn
the
Hughes
defen-
Saronic thing. It's that
exactly.
give and
Like,
take.
Quinn Hughes
Oh,
could be good at defense because you're never in the offensive zone against them.
And you had the regression from the Panthers last year. The Bruins obviously did what they did last year. They did what they've done and jumped out to the lead that they have now. Toronto looks good. This Detroit Red Wings team and their hot start have made things. So it's a competitive Atlantic division that they've got to kind of climb back up. They still have 31 points, so they're still in the conversation. Specifically, a lot more than our next team we're going to talk about, and that is the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Before we get to Pittsburgh, just on the Atlantic, there's not room for both Tampa Bay and Ottawa in the playoff picture.
We'll get to loose change, but Ottawa's got a better roster is what I'll say.
All right. Sorry, let's march on to the Penguins,
To the Penguins, and this has been a bit of a week. You saw Kyle Dubas hit the podium, and he kind of put an expiration date on Mike Sullivan a little bit. And he's saying, he's the right guy, but if things aren't changing by the All-Star break, we're gonna have to take a look at what's going on. Finally, and it gave us a Tuesday night of hockey for this Pittsburgh Penguins power play to finally score 2 goals, and that's what happened. And what happens? They win the game 4-2 versus Arizona, and it was these are the stats that you would expect when you have one of the best lines in hockey with Crosby, Rust, and Gensel
leading the team in points. Gensel,
yep, and you have the best line in hockey, but you're
not the best line in hockey.
One of the best lines in hockey statistically, and then you look at it and where this team has been, it's eye-opening. And we talk about Tampa, who's surviving for their power play. Pittsburgh has not been, and it's been where they brought in a 100-point defenseman in Erik Karlsson to kind of shore things up, especially on the power play. That's not been the case, and it's been a big warning sign or a big concerning sign for this Pittsburgh team as they try and climb themselves out of the Atlantic. Ross, what have you seen from the Penguins so far?
Oldest roster in the league.
Yep.
Crosby's still doing his thing. He looks
phenomenal.
awesome. But it's just they're just very average. And I think that as a 5-on-5 team, they're a playoff team. Their special teams is a catastrophe. And that's where Sullivan is in hot water. They need to fix that. They just need to. Up until, what, you said they scored 2 last night.
Yep.
They had given up more shorties than power play points.
Yeah.
So they were a minus there, which is just preposterous in the NHL today with the way that power plays are producing and also the freaking talent that they have that they put out there. A lot has been made about Karlsson and him fitting in when you have all these other guys that it's like you have all these Hall of Fame players. The reason they're Hall of Fame players is because the puck lives on their stick.
Right.
There's only one puck. It's the old cliche. But they need to fix this. They need to fix their special teams or they're going to miss the playoffs and have to tear things down and deal with everything that they're going to they've been crawling on the edge of a cliff of a rebuild now for some time.
Last year missed the playoffs, and it's
the first year missing the playoffs, right? And so like that pressure ramps up. They bring in Karlsson. That's a big move. There's a lot of expectation. 5-on-5,
they're not a bad hockey team.
They're a playoff team.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we've covered some of the unexpected surprises in the Metro, right? Philly, Washington, teams that we had no hope for that are on 100-point paces, and it's not going to be an easy climb. The rest of this stretch, and I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know if you guys can. I can't remember a team that has turned around a power play and a penalty kill and has turned around the special teams performance as significantly as Pittsburgh's going to need to in order to make the playoffs.
Looking at this,
can you imagine a midseason? Can you think of a midseason turnaround on special teams that a team did that was as significant as what Pittsburgh needs to do?
No, but I also have not seen a power play this bad with 3 Hall of Famers, 3 first ballot Hall of Famers.
Okay, Malkin, Crosby, Erik Karlsson,
Letang.
Letang's getting in probably.
But he's not on the first power play.
No, they've been putting they put Karlsson and Letang on the power
so
play.
they could roster 4.
Plenty of Hall of Famers.
But
we're not doing Hall of Fame
to your point, I mean, even looking at the standings right now, they sit at a +8 goal differential, and that's a positive, and that speaks to their 5-on-5 play. But in terms of goals for, they have the 4th least in the Eastern Conference, and it speaks to their ability to put pucks in the net. And if you can't do it on the power play, you rely that much more on even strength hockey, and that's where it's just kind of a crapshoot when it's 5-on-5 if these teams have a similar or can line up and match you. So it's just
you cannot be good without good special teams.
They're
you
just
can't
old.
Be.
They're old.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
old,
it's the oldest
power play
core
shouldn't be
in
the
all
issue.
of North America sports, I believe.
Maybe. I mean,
No, those 4 have played more games than any other core 4 in North American sports.
Yeah,
including
wild.
playoffs, I bet, because they played a shitload of playoff games.
Even
I would
without
assume
playoffs.
So, yeah.
Together on the same team.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
it's eye opening, and like I said, I know you walked out of the room. Is this another one of the coaches that ends to fall up victim, and that could very possibly be.
I think he's got to, because if your power play's that bad with that much talent, that's enough for me to say get lost. It just is, and they're good 5-on-5. As you guys were saying, they're good. Like they're not just not bad; they're good.
Yeah.
They don't give up goals either.
It's
and Jari's playing well. Like this is not how I thought this team would go.
I don't think anybody did, and it's funny because they're almost equal and opposite of Tampa. And like the plus minus stat is flawed and it's not great, but when you look at these two things, Tampa minus. You look at Pittsburgh plus blah blah blah, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's because the power play sucks and the penalty kill's terrible, and it's like that.
To me, you get a new coach and figure it out.
Big time.
You have to make it. You just have to make a change.
And you need
that is coaching,
but you need buy-in from those superstar dudes.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know Crosby's bought in. I mean, you know Malkin's bought in.
You're right. And you got to think that Crosby can like sit anybody in the room down and be like, "Hey, man, we're broken, and we need to try new things."
Oh.
And if that means you're getting less power play time, it means you're getting less power play time. On the positive front of having that conversation, everyone's already been paid, so it's not like these guys are fighting for contracts.
If McDavid needs a new coach mid-season, Crosby probably does too.
I mean, yeah, but I'm telling you, I don't think they're going to get the power play turn. I don't think they're going to turn things around as much as they need to in order to get there. I just don't.
No, but if they do, I think this team's good. They even have the third line I like. This is a Horna, Larzeller, O'Connor. It's a good third. It's like
Larzeller's been good for them, yeah.
So
but again, that is not right. I mean,
if they're a league average power play, I think they're squarely in the playoffs, maybe in a division placement right now.
Yeah,
and they're not.
Yeah.
Moving on from
quickly. One thing, because this is the best face-off rate I've seen. Of course, it's Crosby. 360 to 241.
Hold on.
Dominance.
Hold on. 360 plus 241. Okay.
Divided by 3. Or 241 divided by 3. No.
That's 59%.
Yeah,
pretty fucking
top
good.
Of the league.
No, we got loose change coming. I know who's ahead of him.
Okay, but
right.
It's top
You
5.
said it.
Oh, that's elite. That's elite. That's Bergeron numbers.
You said it. We're moving to Loose Change, our always weekly cover game recap of the week in review, and the boys did their homework. Ross, you've got your notes. I've got a few. Alex, I think you've got some. Who wants to lead us off? I have game notes from Thursday of last week, so I mean, if we want to go in terms of chronological, it's only of a few games.
If we can, again, I'm not leading the charge here on Loose Change. I think I might be, the caboose as far as hockey watch the past week. But I've got a little bit of a tangent here on Loose Change, which is the NHL Network Showcase Games of the Week. Gary. What are you doing with NHL Network? What is your objective of NHL Network? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Starts with the fact that the league doesn't own them.
What are you trying? Who owns the NHL Network?
MLB Network.
There it is. This thing, so
Are they sabotaging the NHL in the race for third?
So here's what they do with these showcase games. All right, they put them on NHL Network. So then, by broadcasting law, you can't get them on ESPN Plus, and you can't get them on the package. And you can only get them in the local markets. So they choose these games, and what they do is they don't even send the broadcasters to the game. They broadcast it from Secaucus, remote, and so it fucks up the entire audio of the call. It's also the third-rate crew with EJ Raddick and whoever else in there, Kevin Weeks, who, again, fine people, but it's awfully hard to call a hockey game when you're not in the building. It is a cheap-out disaster of a viewing experience. I happened to catch this, Bruins Coyotes matinee game that was an NHL Network showcase. I just caught the tail end of it. Actually went and saw Napoleon Saturday morning, which
any good?
Worthwhile.
Okay.
Not my favorite.
The reviews were a little weak on it.
It didn't blow me out of the water. Worthwhile. Some just
Phoenix was good.
Well, yeah, he's awesome. But some immaculate, large-scale pre-industrial battle scenes that rival. Nice. I mean, they're not Lord of the Rings level, but it's.
I'm gonna watch it then. That's all the review I needed.
It's remnant of that, yeah. And you know what? I don't want to hear any chirps, but the costumes are outstanding. I'm gonna leave it there with Napoleon talk. But no, these NHL showcase games, they suck. The MLB Network owning it, that's a problem. whatever. They need to figure that out because honestly, like I love what they do with NHL on the fly. It's a good thing to have on. It's basically like NHL Red Zone any night.
It's fun. Yeah, it's good.
It's that's solid. But these showcase games are an absolute disaster. And like when they pick a good game to do that, they're ruining like great broadcast crews that know what's going on instead of putting these national guys on that just know the star players, screw up the numbers all the time, like aren't in the building. Like there's just zero investment, there's zero awareness. It's a bad product for the consumer. So I'm off my soapbox on the showcase games, but the fact they call them it pisses me off too because it's really the opposite. But anyway, on to loose change, boys. Who wants to lead us off?
I'll go with starting off with Washington and Dallas. So, Paulie, we were watching. It was a fun one. Dallas ended up having the backup in net for this one, but I was very impressed. And it's never a shocker when you see Pavelski, Rupe, and
Robo.
It was an impressive offensive possession. Joe Pavelski, what is he, 37, 38?
Something like, yeah.
Oh, my God. Such an Iron Man. Just beautiful, beautiful. And then I loved the combo of Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnson, and Daddy on the second line. And it was impressive stuff. Mantha, we talked about it last week. He's a guy that's looked inspiring. And
Mantha, McMichael, Protus.
And
top third line in the league.
And on the power play.
Army, what's that stat that you had with the screenshot of about it was like per time on ice?
Oh, it's expected goals.
Expected goals versus expected goals allowed per time on ice.
Yeah.
McMichael, Protus, and Mantha right up there, and leading the charge in sample size because they played most of the year together.
Other than Woody O'Connor and
Rusty Colton.
Before we move on from the
dude, Rusty Colton's racking up pims. It's awesome.
Before we move on from the Dallas-Washington game, your reffing anger, they got into the way at the end of this one as Washington had a little ozone possession. And I think it was, Dallas had some O-line possession, and it was going to score, and I think who's four on? Heiskanen knocks over Strome trying to fight for space, and they call it interference on Heiskanen. It was a tough call in my opinion. I think it was just two guys fighting for position, and I thought it was just a hockey play. Let it go. Ends up putting Washington on the power play. Ovi. He's just not hitting from his spot right now. It's concerning.
Hashtag Slovechkin.
Yeah, I mean, we said it last week, and it was surprising. First time I watched the shootout, Kuznetsov's move in the shootout. Oh my God, it's frustrating. I get the frustration behind it. It is not good.
How did he look during the game before the shootout?
He looked okay, more involved than he had in the beginning of the year since he's been healthy scratch. I think he needed it. I think he said it was embarrassing, and I think it's been a little bit of a reset that they need.
Do you guys remember how dominant he was in their playoff run?
But I have a point here. You're gonna complain about the Kuznetsov shootout move when Patrick Kane was the first one to do that shit?
No, I don't think Kane. I think you should have a certain pace. There's nothing you can police about that.
Have you seen him fooling announcers? They're like, because sometimes he'll speed up to grab the puck and stop at the blue line. Yep. Then it's like, oh, he's going fast this time, and then they're like, oh no.
Yep.
It's like, of course he's not. But also, did you see the play behind the net? I don't know if this was this game, but it went viral because it's Kuznetsov essentially doing his shootout move, but he's just behind the net and nobody's pressuring him. And he's there for about 10 seconds, uncontested, just waiting. And
That's
then
long.
Turns it over.
Yep. No, but Washington would lose this one in the shootout 1-0. Ovechkin would shoot, Strome would shoot, and Kuznetsov, 21, is that Robo?
That's Robo.
Would have the one goal in the shootout. It was a shot. I love when people shoot on penalty shots.
Yeah.
I think it keeps the goalie really has no.
The clapper. I like the clapper.
The clapper, the hosted clapper from the top of the point or from the circles. But it was an interesting performance. Hadn't watched a lot of Washington. They're hanging in games. They're just fighting. And you talk about Pittsburgh trying to hang on by a rope. I think yes, the stats are showing. I think you said earlier in the pod that they're still on a 100-point pace. But I do get concerned that this Capitals team they're just gonna start. They're outplaying their weaknesses at this point, but I think the weaknesses will start to show.
All I gotta say on that, Army, and it's not long, is like I'm so impressed with them. They could not have forecast getting worse production from their top end guys, and they are where they are.
Yep.
So I don't see that getting any worse. I don't think it can get any worse. So
it can't actually.
I'm concerned that they're definitely going to be a playoff team.
Well, they have,
which screws up all of our predictions.
They have the lowest amount of goals in the league, the worst power play in the league, and they play good defense, obviously.
And Charlie Lindgren, I mean,
they play good defense and they've had good goaltending. But I've said many times, you cannot win with one of your special teams units being the worst in the league. Mm-hmm. They are doing that right now, and Ovechkin's there. Yeah, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs, but it's one of the most confusing teams I can remember at this point in the season.
What would you do about Ovechkin on the power play? Would you try to teach an old dog new tricks? Like, would you get him out of his office?
No.
Are teams still overplaying him?
But that shouldn't matter because they've always done that.
He's still getting,
it opens up other lanes for
he's
other
still getting
guys.
the shots.
Like, it just always has. Like the idea that people are now adjusting to Ovechkin is crazy.
No, it's not. Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just thinking like, do you just throw the whole drawn up Washington Capitals power play? Do you just throw that whole thing in the mixer and like maybe move Ovechkin over to his forehand side, not the 1T? Maybe put him net front.
Or him at the bumper. He'd be interesting at the bumper.
I don't know.
Can't move him.
You're not really. Maybe that would just make you worse in multiple places. Probably. But I don't know. I'm obviously not an NHL coach or power play specialist.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it doesn't get turned around, they're gonna have to try something.
Yeah.
Depends what they try.
Yeah.
No, so I owed Washington a watching, and it was surprised.
Washington.
The last note I have from that Thursday night was the battle of the first overall and the second overall of Leo Carlson and Bedard.
Really quick before we leave the Caps, they're gonna move locations. They're gonna move
going
out of the
Virginia.
Verizon Center.
Yep, they're going to Virginia.
And
Wizards started the
DC contacts say it's been just degradation of the city, and the area around the Verizon Center is gnarly like horrid.
Do they like the move?
And yeah, like it's being met with like apathy and inevitability because of how bad the neighborhood around there is becoming.
They're going to be from downtown.
It's a 4-mile move.
Oh,
Batman was all over this.
That's not bad.
Well, you say Virginia, right? That's like going to Wilmette. I mean, it's around the corner.
Yep. No, I agree with you.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know anything about the facility in Northern Virginia.
Right. No, I think
I couldn't tell you the first thing.
I think the practice facility is in Virginia.
Okay.
I want to say that it is.
It's probably a big development of like some big new super mall.
Right.
That's just a big.
Get the sports book in there.
Capitalist
the mall,
museum.
the restaurants. All it's
a church to capitalism.
We're sold already.
Right.
Quickly. Peter Mrazek, I think he'll be a target. I know he was a little shaky last night, but I think a team who needs goaltending, potentially in Edmonton, if they want to shake things up, you look at a Peter Mrazek who's looked. I know you've had your experience.
I know you're right.
But he's been freaking phenomenal. He's the only reason that the Blackhawks are in any of these games, and even if they're out of these games, he's still having 30 to 40 shots a game, and he's saving 38 of them. So it's been impressive stuff from Peter Mrazek. Mm-hmm. And then Troy Terry, I just wanted to say, I know we've given Troy Terry a little bit of some flack. I was impressed. I'm not ready to say he's certified, but I was impressed by what his play was.
He's a good player. He always has been a good player.
So, but that's what I've got from my Thursday night.
Okay, I have a couple. Sorry, Ross. The Senators are just completely dysfunctional as a team. I mean, I saw this stretch of play where they have this power play. And it's just it's horrible. There was no chance created, and I understand power plays like that happen, but they had the puck in the zone the whole time, and they just didn't do anything with it. It didn't seem like anyone was moving. Like, it just looked awful. Mm-hmm. And they have, again, way too much talent to be playing that way. Common theme with this team. Then they go give up a shorthanded goal. It's like, okay, great. Now you go down. Next shift, Chychrun changes when the puck's coming at him. And the guy who comes on, I don't know who it was, but the other defenseman comes on behind the play, and it's a 2-on-0, go down and score. And it's like, what is going on here? Like, that's like, how do you hop off the boards when there's you're in an active 2-on-1 and you hop off?
Gonna have to freeze frame that YouTube for your facial expression there.
It was just awful. Then we have a couple other things. Kochetkov in this game had a crazy pad stacking save, which then was followed. I wasn't watching this live, but when it's 4-0 and Carolina's running them over, they get a penalty shot. Brady Tkachuk goes down full steam, like he's flying in. Kochetkov comes out, stacks the pads, flying poke, sends him flying. Brady gets all mad. And
I loved it.
I praised Brady last time.
I hated this from Brady.
Well, now this is kind of becoming the sense. They get in so many feisty games, and they cry, and they cry, and they cry. And they're not good enough to be crying this much.
So, like, complain and fight and like make a big stink, yes, but they don't cry quite like the Hughes sisters.
No, but they
or really Jack Hughes. Jack is really the whiner.
They get in all of these chippy games because they just can't. They clearly cannot handle any adversity in a game. They can't take a hit. They just can't. They can't take a hit and say nice hit and move on.
Totally. And the bad look for Brady on that. It's like, number one, it's like, all right, dude,
pick your head up, buddy.
Yeah, It's like you
chose to come in at 100 miles per hour,
and you're a very skilled player. Like, look at the goalie. Don't look at the puck.
And he got the puck. Like at that point,
I mean, he did throw his stick right into his feet, and he got the puck. He got the puck with like his blocker.
I don't hate it.
If you have your head up, you go right around him.
Hey, and it's an easy tap in. So,
no, I mean, to the Sens' point, yes, there's been their close games, and
Brady did wipe out and fly into the boards, but
he's just coming in a million miles an hour.
I mean, yeah, be ready. I agree.
It's a story of they're either going to kick, this week a 5-1 win versus Detroit, 4-3 loss in a close one versus Toronto, 6-2 beating over the Rangers. 4-1 loss to Carolina last night. It's seemingly they're going to blow you out or they're going to get blown out, and then they rough it up. But you look at this lineup, you look at the roster,
but
and
I just don't see mentality on this team. I don't see mentality anywhere.
So there's another guy. You know what might be a good move? Fire DJ Smith.
They actually just brought in
Bring in Berube.
They brought in I don't remember his name, but they
I feel like Berube and Smith are kind of the same guy.
Well, and you have Alfredson who's in there. And Alfredson was coaching over in Sweden, and then they brought him in. And I don't know if Alfredson wants to coach, but there's a few guys.
Isn't Alfredson more on the GM
he is, but they
trajectory?
did just hire someone as a senior assistant to the coaching staff. Who I can't remember.
Oh, Jacques Lemaire.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They got old school Jacques Lemaire. Do you guys remember Jacques Lemaire?
No.
He is a funny looking dude. His ears are longer than his face is tall.
That's cool.
That's cool.
He's got a little bit of a gremlin look to him, but he's like this old school Quebecois Frenchie, who he was the coach there for a number of years when they were really good. Around the core, Alfredson, Hossa, Heatley, Spezza, like those core teams. Chris Phillips, right? The team that ultimately
Wade
lost.
Redden.
Wade Redden, Wade the Blade, Chara, that team that ultimately lost to Anaheim in the 07 final. But Jacques Lemaire, I mean, he's an old school defensive mind, but he's also fucking ancient. I don't know if he could be anything more than an
he's
interim
71,
coach.
I think, at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude.
Smith.
Anything else on the Senators?
But to your point, though, like about like I think Giroux is playing a really important role, keeping things together. But it's like to Arm's point, they're not showing the stick together, the fight through adversity, and they can't stack these wins together. It's one step forward, two steps back. It's been the story for through 25 games. Big sample size now.
Good amount now. They don't seem like they play great team hockey ever.
They're not very
and they
disciplined.
have great individual plays that work. But I don't see like consistent good puck movement from this team ever.
Some pretty epic passing through the neutral zone.
They have these moments.
Sanderson and Chychrun, those are some stretch passers, man.
I haven't seen it put together once this year, and I've seen them have big games.
We'll see.
I think you're if you can unlock Stützle, Norris is starting.
Unlock Stützle, isn't he performing?
He is, but these guys have put up points.
It hasn't been what he was producing last year. Norris, I think there's talent there that this team could unlock, and if they put a little more discipline together, and maybe that is a changing of the guard with DJ Smith, who they brought in this year. We'll see what happens with the Ottawa Senators. Moving on.
Do you think Berube's a fit there behind the bench?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think right away.
I think anyone would be a fit there at this point right now. They just need a change up. Really,
and Korpisalo has not been good, so it's just.
Yeah, but like some of these goals that he hasn't been good, but also it's like they have defensive breakdowns.
Yeah.
They don't play well.
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
I hear.
So I blame some of that on him. But
keep it firing, boys. Keep it firing.
On the other end of that game, Carolina looked great.
First time all year.
It's another team that's been up and down.
It's actually not true, and we'll get to the Saturday picks, but I think they actually have looked good. Every time I've watched them, they outshoot a lot of teams. They play their metrics are very good in terms of chance creation. They create a lot of chances. My issue with Carolina, it's going to be their issue for a long time. They have their two biggest issues are the two hardest things to solve. One, good goaltending. Two, putting the puck in the back of the net.
Sounds like
they're bad at both.
Sounds like Freddie Anderson's done for the year.
I don't think that's tough, but he wasn't good either.
I know, I get it, but that was their number one.
I just don't understand how do you solve? They have a good team. There's a lot of really good players on that team, and they play good hockey.
And they're balanced, and they're
like a really good team. They're a really good team. Nobody you can
Orlov's been pretty tough.
Talking about a team that just came off of a 4-game losing streak, and
they outshot every one of those games. They dominated every one of those games.
I think Carolina's answer,
Oilers.
as much as Rob the Bot is desired,
Rod with a D.
I think you got to move on from Brendamore.
Dude,
No
the worst
chance,
take of the
man. No
pod.
chance.
Worst take of
No
the pod.
I
I'm
think he
sorry.
takes too much. He's
No.
on an expiring contract this year, so we'll see what ends up
I think
happening.
they should re-sign him. I think they play great hockey.
So
I
think,
get it, but I
no.
think he takes too much of the spotlight. I
So
think
two things.
he tries and keeps his name
Who
relevant.
else would you rather have in the spotlight on that team? Pick a player. The goaltending?
What about Tuvo?
Yeah,
I just
Tuvo?
think you need someone who I don't know,
Underperforming
more of an
Svechnikov?
authority.
So Jack,
Sebastian
Jack,
Aho?
I listen. I hear the take. It's just unrealistic because Rod the Bot is like he is the organization. He's gonna coach here for 25 years.
I get it. Well, we'll see. I mean, he is on an expiring deal.
They're gonna figure it out. I'd be and
But
I'm
they
listen,
play good hockey.
and
Like,
I'm
watch them play.
I know. And Brindamore's like historical, just like bitching and like media and like complaining about ref stuff and like there's nobody I'd rather like I would rather enjoy seeing Rod the Bod get canned. It's just not going to happen. But let me just say this about Carolina, okay? I had you guys laughed at my Bruins poll. Would you prefer take the wins or more adversity? Carolina has been from beginning to end of each of the past 4 seasons, they've been one of the top teams in the league. They've been one of the most consistent teams in the league. They've found ways to win, constantly winning and playing the same style all the time. They're hitting their rough patches right now. They're treading water. They're in the mix. They're not digging a real hole for themselves. This could be a good thing for them. This could be a good thing. Finding more creative, different ways to score, finding ways to clamp down further on defense, and not letting goaltending kind of ruin their chances. Finding ways to make up for what they're not getting all the way around. This could be a good thing for them because their playoff track record is you play well, you can't get out of the East. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is a good thing for them. Maybe the rest of the year and how the roster looks and changes, et cetera. Like maybe this is the formula for something different at the end of the year.
Yeah, and they're good. And the other thing, Svechnikov is not back yet. He's playing, but like he's not fully healthy
coming back
yet.
from an ACL, that takes some time.
Yeah, and then he just got dinged up the other day on like an upper. Like he got cross-checked in the back and it dinged him up. But this team's good.
If you're Carolina, you got to love the fact that you got to just jump Washington, who I think they're a better team than Washington. Detroit is seemingly. I think they'll find their game again, but
Wrong division.
no, I'm looking at the wild card.
I think Carolina should make the playoffs.
They should
would
be in
think
top
so.
3
You
in
would think so.
the Metro.
I think they're going to make the I'm not worried about them.
Them passing New York Islanders and the Flyers is very realistic.
The Islanders, yeah. I think
And also, like, the goaltending's been, like, probably the worst in the league. It's going to get a little bit better. These guys aren't off. Like, Ranta's not good, but he's not horrible. Kochetkov's not horrible. Right now they are, but, like, they're going to be okay.
All right.
Fair.
We're past
Last
the Canes.
one.
More
Last
on the
one.
Canes.
No.
Oh, last game. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, last thought. This was from last night, Sif. Enjoy this while it lasts. Bedard's nuts, man. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's so good. That goal,
it's
and
ridiculous.
you said he made Ekholm look bad last night on that goal.
Absolutely not.
I don't know what
disagree.
Ekholm could have done. Personally, I think he made Bouchard look bad because Bouchard was kind of hung
He was
out.
out of his space.
He was out of position,
He was out of
but
position, yeah.
the quick move and just roofing it. I mean, that's a low percentage shot for a lot of people. He made it.
The
look
jump
easy.
off of his stick it's ridiculous.
And
It
at this
really
point,
is.
like my new assessment is like he's clearly not a bust. He's clearly a superstar. Is he going to be the best player in the league in 5 years? That's like the question. That's the
As
get
soon as
worried-
McDavid trails off.
yeah.
I
but
get
like
worried about
he's-
the size, but I think
why.
well,
I
he's
mean,
just-
you've seen him produce with nobody
He's
around
still
him.
if you continue to watch the game, which I don't know if you did. He's still getting thrown around a little bit.
And
But
he's
that's
18.
He's 18. I know.
And he's
I
on
know,
pace
I
for
know.
40 goals.
He's
pretty
going to
much.
he's going to be a monster.
I think 100 points. If he
Pair-
doesn't score
pair a little
120,
Celebrini next to him.
Oh Jesus, yeah, maybe.
yeah, that'd be ridiculous. But if he doesn't score 120 in his career one time, that's a disappointment at this point.
I'd be shocked. He's going to be a monster.
So, I mean, he's borderline must watch. If the Hawks weren't so shit, it gave him a little bit more opportunity to play.
Without a Seth Jones in the lineup last night, do you think Edmonton they looked good when they turned it on? I think towards the end of that first period, but the Hawks did a decent job for being. They had 4 guys that have played 100 career games, and it was.
I mean, they're not supposed to be good, and there's just not really any playmakers on the team. I thought Vlasic looked okay.
I like Vlasic a lot.
Vlasic had a nasty setup for Bedard's goal. He found
it
him
was
on
a
a
great
stretch
pass.
pass.
That was
It was
Vlasic's a
unbelievable.
find. Was he a
Yeah.
second round pick?
Something like that.
He looks
He's
good.
He's a local boy.
He's huge. He moves really well.
The only
Yeah.
concern with Vlasic is just stay away from a huge contract.
That's fair.
That's really it. He's going to be a good player.
fair.
I don't think he's a number one,
Yeah.
but he could be. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. As far as like this season and how teams have been performing and how everything's going, I think the Blackhawks are having the best season of any team in the NHL based on what they're trying to achieve.
Expectations. Yeah. No, I mean
No. Based on what they're trying to achieve.
If they get the first pick again,
Bedard looks great, and they're last in the league.
And Foligno at $4 million might be a trade deadline target.
100%. I mean, I think they brought in. We talked about this in preseason, right? They brought in Foligno and Perry to dump them at the deadline. I think,
and to be like a couple games of advice, and
to be father figures.
Bedard and Foligno, they've come close. They've become close.
Yeah,
what you like to see. It's a good leader to learn from.
They wanted father figures. They wanted father figures in the locker room.
Lucas Reichel has been a disaster. That's the big where Hawks were hoping.
You don't notice him at all.
No, he just has no confidence.
He's young. Year? Guys develop.
He's probably fourth year out of the draft. I think second year in the league.
Third year is a big jump here for guys like that.
He's probably
moving on from the painful Blackhawks. Let's go. Keep it going.
All right, Rusty's loose change. Really quick, Slavkovsky. I buried him. Shootout game winner immediately following. How are you? We just gave Jack credit about to get him all excited about Connor Bedard. My favorite sequence: St. Louis, Detroit. Power play situation. Puck comes over to Kane. And I thought it was just a bouncing puck over to Kane on the half wall, left shot. I thought it was a dog shit effort by Kane to go for that bouncing loose puck. And Marco Scandella beat him to the puck, took it all the way down the ice and scored a shorthanded backhand beauty. I thought that was an embarrassing play by Kane. Just going to say that. Any comments?
No, it was a bad effort. I don't think he had any chance of catching him, but it was a bad effort.
Not of catching him from behind, but of competing for the puck or getting in the way.
He could have done a bit more.
Doesn't surprise me. That's what I'll chalk it up as.
Yeah, I'm not. The reason it's Patrick Kane.
It was a losing play from a winning player, so that I just wanted to call
that
out.
as a winning player.
It's true. It's true. Bruins. Let's see. Quick Bruins recap. Dog shit game in Buffalo. I did not see it, but I was talking to my old man, and he said not that he's a podcast guest, but they were just getting dominated, outshot early, and that seemed to continue throughout the game. They lose to Buffalo, who was, I think, hungry, coming off of a losing streak Thursday night last week. Takeaway from that game: Charlie McAvoy gets injured. Charlie McAvoy's had a couple concussion problems, and this play that McAvoy got hurt on. Okay. You guys know me as well as anybody as a hockey fan. Am I a bleeding heart crying, "Oh, the Bruins are getting screwed. Is everybody screwing the Bruins?" Or am I pretty honest about like when they suck and they deserve it?
I would say you're a better masshole.
Am I a crybaby fan?
No, well, about winning, yeah. But that's about it.
They need to stop winning.
Yeah. You do cry a lot about those wins.
So this play, Charlie McAvoy, and this Paterka on Buffalo,
Paterka.
who I like mostly what I've seen from him playing. This sequence is preposterous, and the fact that there's been no conversation about supplemental discipline is shocking to me. McAvoy comes over to play Paterka. The puck's coming up on the sidewall. Paterka and McAvoy are both skating to the puck. Neither one's touched the puck, right? So neither player has been a puck possession guy. Paterka never touches the puck. He veers away from the puck and reverse checks McAvoy high and with an elbow to the face.
Yeah, I saw the play, and I didn't say it because you showed it to me. I had instant thought on this. McAvoy has earned that play through many times of him being the initiator of contact.
I agree with that.
In places that were not warranted. McAvoy has earned that reverse hit. I feel no sympathy. That's the type of game he plays. He initiated the contact. I get if you want to penalty.
He didn't initiate the contact in this play.
No, I know.
No, but
I'm saying Paterka.
To your point of Barron not being prepared for contact, Paterka, yes, he got an elbow, but
Barron had the puck.
I understand it. I understand what you're saying.
Paterka didn't even have the puck. You can't throw a reverse check when you don't have the puck. That's just interference.
McAvoy has.
Do I think it was interference? Do I think it was interference? Yes, but
was it contact to the head? I'm going to quote the player safety assholes when they send the Thursday night in Buffalo.
No, they've stopped doing it. It's a shame.
Anyway, that was fucking dog shit, all right? And I didn't watch the game, so I can't talk about any kind of a response and this and that, but that was fucking bullshit. And I think that's exactly the kind of thing that he should get a game for that, for sure. He absolutely should. And McAvoy's got a little bit of a kind of concussion history thing, and that's like the one thing that could derail his career. And I'm not saying it's going to derail his career, and I'm not having a huge moment here, but I saw that clip. I saw that he was hurt, and then I looked up the clip, and that one really pisses me off. They're playing New Jersey tonight. They're without Zacha. They're without McAvoy. Of course, they'll probably win the game. But like, those are their two most valuable players right now outside of Pasternak, who, Jesus, is right behind fucking Kucherov in the heart race.
I hear the anger. I hear the anger on it. I think this is
You're crying
chalked
about
up.
something. McAvoy's done
This
these
is
plays.
chalked up as to me. I get it. The head contact. There's no arguing that.
Shoulder to
If
the
this
head,
was
by
the
the way.
if this was the NCAA, he would have been tossed for targeting. There's no question about it. But I think chalking it up as again, I know I hate to do it, but as the fastest sport on earth, I chalk it up as one of those.
Yeah, I'm
It's
just
a
saying.
shoulder to the face.
It's not a hockey play.
I hear you. I hear
I've
you.
seen no. I'm not on that.
Whatever. This one really pissed me off. I thought it was complete bullshit. Final Bruins note, just the sleeper matinee against the Coyotes. I went and saw Napoleon. I come back for the third period. Even EJ Raddick in fucking weeks are like, yeah, it's been a weird game down there in the matinee. I mean, you have fucking Arizona coming across the country. They play a game at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It's like, what are we fucking doing here, schedulers?
They were on an East Coast trip at least.
Whatever. Pasternak falls ass backwards into 2 goals. How are you? All right, moving on. Toronto, New York Rangers. Appointment viewing for me yesterday.
Last night, yeah.
I tuned into that one. Couple game notes from this one. Austin Matthews. I've heard a lot about his defensive game, and I've been trying to keep an eye on that because he jumps off the sheet so much when he's playing offense. He does a really good job with his foot and skate positioning in the D zone when he pressures the point. I've noticed he's a big dude, and he does a great job of denying lanes to the defenders. Wanted to give him a shout out for that. Who's you were talking about Crosby, 59.99999% in the draw?
Mm-hmm.
All right, trivia. Who's leading the NHL in faceoff percentage?
I have no idea where to start on that one.
Any guesses?
No.
All right, so I haven't watched a ton of Rangers, and I'm watching this clip, and the broadcaster points out Vinny Trocheck is taking a faceoff.
Wow.
He's taking a faceoff ambidextrously. He goes right.
I've seen this.
You have?
No, I've seen it on the beer leagues. That these guys they switch hands, so it's you're on your forehand.
Have you seen it in the NHL?
Yes, a little bit, but not to
Anyone
effective.
come to mind?
It's something that's developed in the last year or two.
All right, so I just want to walk you through my thought process because I haven't watched a ton of Rangers, and so I hear that Trocheck's taking draws with both hands, and I'm thinking my first thought is, and I'd seen him in a couple shifts, and like he got beat on some goal, and he made a kind of a bad offensive zone play, and I see that here that he's going both hands in faceoffs. I'm thinking to myself, well, fuck, Trocheck must be really struggling. He's trying to do anything to stay in the lineup. Look it up. Yeah, he happens to be leading the NHL in faceoffs and second on the team in points behind only Panarin. He's having a hell of a year. He's always been a player I've loved. He's tracking for a career high in points. He fucking killed the Bruins in that Carolina playoff series. But he's awesome, and the fact that he's taking draws both sides and he's at a 63.6% clip.
Jesus.
That's like historic. They put up a grid. It's like since the 04-05 lockout, only like 2 or 3 guys have been higher than that. So that was interesting. We talked a lot today about players defending themselves and about players being aware that it's a collision sport. Not Charlie Lindgren, his brother Ryan Lindgren, right? The D partner for Adam Fox. But Ryan Lindgren plays a heavy game, right? He's a physical guy. He's not the biggest, but he's very stout, and he plays physical, and he'll light you up if he gets a chance. Carries a puck into the freaking O-zone, makes a pass, and looks over his shoulder. Buddy. Know better. And fuck did Jake Bean make him have it. I love that. That was one of the
nice hit.
one of the hardest, cleanest checks out there. And you know what I loved the most about it, honestly? Lindgren popped right up, got to his position. It was a clean check. Nobody got hurt, and there wasn't a fucking yard sale, pillow fight, little reaction to it, right? We just kept playing hockey. That was refreshing. Last point, fucking Panarin. Panarin, a couple D-zone plays by Panarin. Holy shit. Just terrible. Just god-awful, like blind saucer passes right up the middle. Neither one ended up back in the net, but I saw him make 3 of those, and I was just like, dude, what the fuck? So I look him up, 38 points in 26 games, -1, on a great defensive team and with the best goalie. Like, come on, man. All right. Anything on Toronto Rangers you guys have before I keep moving?
Keep it rolling.
All right. Caught a little bit of the late game. In fairness, I totally passed out and slept through like the second and third period, but I caught a little bit of Tampa Bay, Vancouver. Fuck, am I watching a lot of Vancouver these days, boys?
It's because they're always last at night.
I know. Tyler Myers and Zadorov are out there. All right.
Still?
They're out there. Army. Myers and Zadorov. And who's coming? It's sort of a 4-on-3 with Sergachev joining the rush. So it's a 4-on-3. It's the two of them back there with whoever was playing center. and Hagel peels up at the top of the circle, and Zadorov just gets completely lost in no man's land. And he like kind of stops skating to the net, and he's like an arm's reach, but still too far away, and just basically takes himself completely out of the play. And then just this tic-tac-toe, Hagel to Sergachev to point on the back door, all in the space that Zadorov completely vacated in getting completely out of position. A little bit more evidence they need to figure it out. It was honestly, it was just shocking to see an NHL defenseman, and I like Zadorov. I'm a Zadorov guy, and he's on a new team, and like there are a lot of reasons that this isn't who he is. Yeah. But it was shocking on one play to see a player like him get into no man's land quite like that. It was as bad as it gets. Final points. The grind line with Vancouver with Joshua, Bluger, and Garland. I know they want more points out of Garland for the contract he's on, and he might be a trade chip because of the bad kind of value for point production. But that's a fucking hard-working, hard-checking line. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what Vancouver needs that. So I really liked what I saw out of that line. Your thoughts on that line before I get to my last point?
Garland, a guy who has some speed. I saw him, I think, towards the middle of that game. He carried the puck. I think he's just an untapped potential that if you can. He wants
to be traded too.
He did request a trade early in the year, and I think seeing how Vancouver's responded this year may have changed his thoughts. But the train might move with him or might move without him.
And I really like Garland, the player. I do. It's just
he was buried in Arizona. It was tough. It was tough. And
but he got a ticket, right?
Yeah.
So
yes,
no crying. He'll figure it out.
He'll still get paid.
I'm sure he'll figure it out. Last point. Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes breaks his stick in the D zone, skates right to the bench for a new stick. I like that play for Quinn Hughes. I don't like that play generally speaking.
The puck?
In his own D zone. Not for everybody, but for Quinn Hughes. What is Quinn Hughes bringing to the table without a stick?
Nothing.
Yeah, not much.
Absolutely
so
not.
that was something that it breaks a lot of sort of hockey orthodoxies, but I saw that and I started processing it as it was happening. Got away with it this time. I saw it as it was happening, and then as the play got out of the zone, I thought to myself, I was like, that's just the right play. He can get to the bench and back in about 2.5 seconds. Yeah. He's exposing the team, but he's exposing him for 2.5 seconds, not 25. Yeah. So that was a little bit of a learning moment for me in thinking about these new players and just how some of the things that are hockey orthodoxies are being changed and evolving with the just tremendous skill and the different types of athletes and players that are playing. That's the end of my loose change, boys.
Got any final thoughts?
No, an eventful week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the league has some things they need to handle, and but no, the fact is, it's been exciting hockey, and it's continuing on, and we can't wait to watch more on another exciting week. We get the Dubas return in Toronto. I know he's already said he won't file any or won't do any media. It's just I'm excited. I think there's storylines always to be had, so there's always storylines for us to talk about, which is always making our lives a little easier.
You've really come to love the Toronto fucking soap opera.
I do. I really do.
Honestly, me too. I just try not to talk about it on the pod.
I'm all for it. I know. I hear you. I still think it's fun appointment. It's not appointment viewing.
Listening, yeah.
It's fun to. But Dubas in Toronto, he's gonna get some booze.
Shout out, if you like sports talk radio and you like hockey, shout out Kipper and Bourne. It's a radio show.
The real Kipper and Bourne show.
It's a radio show in Toronto that does an hour on the Leafs and an hour on the National every single day. We get a lot of our material from it. I'm just in the interest of full disclosure, but it brings a little bit of that local sports talk thing, which is one of my favorite things going. And it's all hockey, so I recommend it. It's 2 hours a day, and they bang your head against topics sometimes. That's what you do when you have hours to kill on the radio every day. Yep. So come to Slot Shot for your weekly needs, but for your daily fix, that would be my leading rec.
I would agree with that. I would endorse that. Moving on from Loose Change, another great Loose Change, and hope you guys listened to that one and enjoyed it. If you've got any thoughts, if you've got any comments, hit our slotshot@gmail.com.
We find a couple quarters in the Loose Change.
Hit us up in the mailbag. If we're not covering your team, let us know. We'll make sure it's on our viewing list, and we'll be happy to talk about it more. Moving on. I've got to ask, because I wanted to make sure he has not been taken before. I know Delorier has been of Edmonton, or how do you say it?
Edmington?
Desharnais in Edmonton has been picked. So I'm picking Nicolas Delorier of Philadelphia, I don't know if he's been on the list before, but
I don't think so.
The 32-year-old from Quebec, 6'1", 218, big penalty guy, big rough grinder for Torts in the Flyers. He's a guy who's on probably on the final legs of his NHL career, but a guy who's always been a tough force on the Philadelphia lineup. So Nick Delorier is my pick this week.
I haven't watched him play. He did have 306 hits last year. He's already got 71 this year in 28 games. So
the numbers add up.
2.5
a little bit
a
more
game.
on the sheet.
2.5 a game. He's got a big season going. 3 points, all assists, probably secondary. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched him enough to notice him yet. So
I'll take that as a compliment.
yeah, I need to turn on a Flyers game and close my eyes.
No,
If
I know
hear
some
his name
Flyers.
A couple times.
I need some Flyers watching. There's no question about that. What do you think of the pick? You're quiet.
I love Delorier. He's one of the last heavyweights of a dying breed. You guys, I'm a little shocked, Army, that he's not on your radar. Been on my radar for a number of years. He's been a real.
What is his name?
He's a real classic knuckle dragger. He's led the league in fighting majors a number of times. He was playing in Phoenix for a while, and basically
Not Phoenix. There's Buffalo, Montreal, Anaheim, and Minnesota for a year.
Never Phoenix.
Never Phoenix.
Fuck me.
Yeah, sorry.
Delorier. Anaheim. I'm thinking of his time in Anaheim.
That makes more sense.
And so he was a fighter, and that's obviously gone away. But he really kind of dedicated himself as skating and focusing and learning how to be a good penalty killer. He's earned a role in the modern NHL, and you know that Torts loves him, and he's just a full effort guy, tough as nails. And like tough in making plays, not just giving punishment, but receiving it, taking a hit to make a play. So he's a real blood and guts guy, and I think he could definitely qualify as a termite. He throws his weight around for sure. I don't know what his
waiting to hear. Damn it.
what are his games played this year in minutes.
He's played 28 and he's averaging 9.
So he's in the lineup every night, and he's
Played 80 last year.
Yeah, no. And again, he's worked on that himself to develop into being that
it's a
player,
guy that-
and deserves a ton of credit for
Yes,
that. And
yes.
I love to see it because I love those kinds of guys.
Yep.
Usually the best teammates too, on and off the
Locker
ice.
room glue guys.
Totally. So I couldn't endorse Delorier anymore.
It's great, Nick. Love it. Love it. Had to get back on the train after the McAvoy one. All right, good. Well, that makes the termite of the week easier for me. Nicholas Delorier added to the list. Saturday picks, boys. Saturday picks. Army is choking away a little bit of the lead as it's now a 3-way tie at 5-3 because he's been leading the year so long and because he wants to go first. Army, after choking on potentially the juiciest parlay of the season last year, and man, was there hope, especially after Ottawa was able to pull it out and then Carolina crushed it. How are you responding this week?
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. In case anyone tailed, tough one.
Shame.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But this week I'm looking at the games. I really am seeing so many trap games. It's really bothering me. So I'm just gonna, have to go with the gut here. And I hate the pick, but I'm going with it. I'm going Flames over Lightning in the Saddle Dome. It's just 2 times in 3 weeks I've picked the Flames. And it seems like a losing strategy so
You're on
far.
a 3-game or 2-game losing streak right now.
But I'm doing it. I didn't like anything here. Like the slate is riddled with trap games in my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Who's next, Jack?
Edmonton beating the Florida Panthers in Edmonton. 9
Looking
o'clock
at
start.
that one.
I like that Florida's got to take a little bit of a trip up to Alberta from Florida. It's the most traveled team in the league, basically, with Arizona and Tampa. So I like the mileage gets to the Panthers, and Edmonton keeps rolling on the hot streak.
And they're already up there.
So that game, I'm not going to pick that game. I wouldn't pick that game because that's like the pick 'em game of the week. I mean, Oilers obviously white hot, and anybody who's been paying attention to the Eastern Conference, the Panthers are the team to beat in the East.
Phenomenal.
They are. Like the Rangers have the points, but they've got their holes, and they're the Rangers. Boston, we've talked a million times. They're not as good as their record. Everybody knows it. The Cats are the team in the East, and that's going to be a really great game. I don't know what my plans are Saturday, but I wouldn't hate bailing on all of them to just sit down and drink 15 beers and watch that game at 9.
Got 2 games at 9. 3, actually.
Rusty, actually. I took a look at the schedule. I worked Saturday, and I started working my way left on my ESPN app because I've deleted my NHL app because it sucks and it's useless, and I fucking hate
Finally
it.
making the move.
Oh, no, I deleted it a while ago. I deleted it after the rant. I downloaded it for the rant to look at it. I re-downloaded it to do the rant on the pod, and then immediately after I deleted it.
I swear you were just complaining about it pre-pod.
No, I was complaining via Jack's phone.
Oh.
But my point is, the fact is,
who are you taking?
the St. Louis Blues just fired their head coach.
Yeah, I was looking at this.
They will not play a game until Saturday night when, they are having some rest, getting the new coach in there, working on systems, and they're hosting the Dallas Stars at the Enterprise Rent-A-Car Center in St. Louis. I'm taking the Blues on a new head coach. The Stars coming into town. Obviously, it's a very good team leading the division. There's a bit of a rivalry there, right? There's some history between the clubs. I'm just going with new coach, new juju, and I've had my thing on the Stars all year, right? Really good team, a lot to like there. I'm out on the Stars, so here I am. St. Louis Blues over Dallas Stars. Should be some juice on that. Although the handicappers do usually factor in, new coach change moments.
I was looking at that one. I'm happy you picked it.
I'm going with the Blues. Yeah.
This is it's good hockey games, I think, throughout the whole Saturday pick slate. So it's going to be an interesting one to parlay, but we'll see what happens there.
Stars on a back-to-back, too.
Yeah. The only one of the picks that have a game on Friday night, actually.
No Ottinger. Maybe Wedgwood.
But you probably hold Ottinger. Who are they playing Friday? You probably hold Ottinger out of that and you play him in the divisional game. Yeah, they're playing Ottawa. So you probably have the backup against Ottawa.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And then you probably play Ottinger Saturday night. But I told you, I'm a little out on Ottinger, too.
We'll see. That wraps up another phenomenal episode of Slot Shot Podcast. If final thoughts before we send her on home, boys.
I got nothing.
Patrick Kane is so cool with the puck. It's cool to enjoy him, so.
1 in 4. Love it. That wraps up, like I said, another great episode. If you want to go follow the boys, give Ross a follow at Rusty Pedroia on Twitter. Give Alex a follow at armdog_SS. Follow the boys at SLOTSHOT Podcast on Instagram. If you like the video content, you like what we're posting, feel free to give us a like, hit the subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. Support the podcast. Give us your reviews. Hit us up in the mailbag at slotshotpodcast@gmail.com. We're always open. We're always here to hear about it. Rusty, on the weekend, captain 11-point performance in the beer league game, so he's riding off a high as they, I think Alex and Ross are taking the ice for a nice little 950 beer league game.
Just call me Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah, a little Eric Carlson-like. What did Marchese call you? Something good, but we're thinking about you, Kevo. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. We're racing to the holidays. We'll catch you guys next week. Jonas Brothers to lead off the Stadium Series, the big announcement from the NHL on Good Morning America today. Massive. But no, I mean, it's fun. They're doing 2 games at the MetLife, so we'll get into it when that crosses. I think that's actually this Saturday. Is it? No, it's not. It's next week. Perfect. Well, have a great week. We'll catch you guys soon, and good hockey watching.